Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 65. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim.
A great kid like you deserves an amazing birthday.
So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin.
What the hell is that?
I got a birthday card, which is, my birthday's in January, right? So my buddy Chris Kendall, very good, close friend, we just had this stretch here where we haven't been able to get together or see each other. Or when I have, you know, he didn't have my birthday present with me, so he bought me a season 6 of The Simpsons, but he gave me this Batman card that had it had like, and I was literally, we were at Quaker Steak and Lube because we saw the Rolling Stones movie last night. So we're at Quaker Steak, and I'm sitting here at the table. I had to have looked like a moron because I kept opening up this frickin' card and putting it by my ear because it's Batman telling me that, hey kid, have this great birthday. So I obviously made a total fool out of myself last night, but the card's cool. So I figured I would share the card with everybody.
Okay.
So now everyone's in the know. But I had to look like a freak because it's his birthday card, and I'm putting it by my ear because you're in a restaurant, you can't hear it anyway. And everyone's looking at me like I had to have done it like 20 times. Anyway, on this episode, Jim and I are going to be talking about Countdown. We're continuing our Countdown catch-up. We have a huge announcement. Jim and I have really been talking about where we want to get the show back to weekly. As of this episode, we're going back to weekly. Our regular release is going to be Saturday night, Sunday morning, depending on what my weekend schedule looks like. But we are going to be a weekend release every week now. We're going back to weekly. We've had our own personal between work and your health issues and things like that, trying to get ourselves back on track as far as going back to being a weekly podcast. This is the start of it. One of the reasons why I delayed this, I took a long look at what day would be the best for us release-wise for me to edit and guarantee that I can get it out. Because I want to go back to a set release date. So we are heading down that path, especially with Countdown winding down and getting to a close. We aren't going to have that segment anymore. And we're going to handle Trinity much differently, just because we want to get back into covering other books. And we have a new sponsor that we're going to be talking about in a minute that's going to offer some options on some back issue content we're going to take a look at too. So we're going to be getting back to mixing it up a bit on the show. We are going to do a monthly Trinity segment. We are going to put a lot of depth into the Trinity segment, but it's going to be a once-a-month segment versus what we've been doing now with Countdown. Because Countdown, we really dissected Countdown to an insane level, but it was a good thing because this is a very controversial mini-series. And I'm glad we did this series the way that we did. But between 52 and Countdown, the heavy coverage we've been doing with that, I think now would be a great time to kind of pull back a little bit on the weekly series, do that as a monthly segment, and with Batman, rip, with the stuff going on in Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman. There's just so many books right now. Legion of the Superheroes, Booster Gold. There's a lot of books and miniseries. Rand Thanagar, I'm going to want to talk about that.
Why? I don't understand why.
I'm loving Starlin, and to see Starlin now tackling major characters that I'm loving. There's that Hell miniseries that's going to be coming out. I forget what the exact title is right now off the top of my head.
Reign in Hell.
Is that what it is? That's going to be a very major miniseries. I'm questioning whether or not, and this is just me speculating, there's going to be a Black Adam involvement in that miniseries. I don't know.
Dude, there has to be. There has to be.
Yeah, because I'm guessing Felix Faust might be appearing in that. Yeah. And I'm not spoiling anything. This is just pure speculation on what I think what might be about. I have no clue. So it's interesting. So that's why we want to get back to weekly, especially going into summer. So this episode's the first one kicking it off. So thank you for the couple extra days patience this week. It was really for the purpose of getting us back in track. We have a lot of big things going on over the next couple weeks. Our next episode is going to be the start of our 2-year anniversary celebration. We're going to be doing New Frontier. I'm actually going to release that while we're in New York. We're going to talk about New Frontier, compare it to the original work as well. We're going to be doing a lot of recording in New York at the New York Comic Con with DC News. Jim and I are going to do comic reviews on the convention floor. We are going to be getting listeners on. It looks like one of our contest winners is going to be there. And we are going to be doing his Starman. We're going to do Starman Wicked Inclination.
Oh, cool.
We're going to do a review of that at New York with him there. So we've got a lot of big things coming. Which I know it means you have to read it, but I got to reread it too this week. But he said, "Can we do this while I'm there? I've got my notes all ready and everything." I'm kind of like, well, all right. And that gives us, so we're going to get ahead a few episodes, actually, while we're in New York. At least a few episodes worth of content. We may have to do some recording as far as opening and closing segments and linking segments to make the shows flow nice. But we have got big things planned. But I want to talk about our new sponsor, Jim. We are now currently sponsored by DCBS. DCBService.com is a new sponsor of ours, along with Instocktrades.com. So we have a major sponsor now for the show again, and this is fantastic because Jim and I have been using this service for quite some time, and the discounts are staggering. It's how we do what we do. I mean, I love going to the local shops and everything like that, and I still frequent local shops, but with the amount of comic product that's out there and the amount that I want to read, I need a discount solution in order to be able to do that, and DCBS is the service. I can't rave it enough. Jim and I are lucky as far as where we are shipping zone-wise. We literally get our books the day after they're released in the shops.
Yeah, that's just amazing because, Thursdays, their books are in hand. And you're just like,
And the only exception to that is ever if there's holidays. Then we'll get it a little bit later. So there's a nice consistent shipping time window, which is awesome. I know it's depending on your location, what day you get your books is going to be different, but at least you can rely on a lot of consistency. They're fast, they get your books out to you, and they come just in a wonderful condition. The amount of care, and kudos to everybody who works at DCBS, the amount of care. I have never had a book that has any form of ding, problem, anything like that, but I email them, and literally within 24, at the most, to 48 hours, they email me back for any questions I have, any special needs I've had. I've added things to orders because I forgot something, and they're right there to get those things in my order. So it's great. Just an example of this month's incredible offerings, Batman 678, which is written by Grant Morrison with art by Tony Daniel. This is part 3 of Batman Rip, which is a huge series. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79 at DCBS. You can't argue with that kind of savings. Yeah. Just talking about, speaking of Grant Morrison still, his JLA run is being collected in hardcover. There's a Volume 1 coming out. It's in this month's previews. It features issues 1 through 9, The Secret Files and Origins. $29.99 is the regular price for that hardcover. Only $14.99 with the 50% discount at DCBS. I mean, wow. Manhunter, which we did a Manhunter challenge on this show. It's coming back with issue number 31, which is solicited this month. Mark Andreyko's back. Michael Gaydos is going to be doing the art. There's a cover by Lam Sharp. Basically, 74 cents. You're allowed to buy 2 of them at this price. It's regularly $2.99. There is a 75% discount. It's only 74 cents. Kate Spencer is back. Check out her work. We are huge fans of this series. The reason why it's been so delayed is DC's been making sure that this is going to be back monthly, on time. Let's get this script stockpiled and ready to go. I am so excited for this. If you have not picked up Manhunter, we've got a ton of episodes where we talk about this great book from our Manhunter Challenge. Go back and listen to some of those. Manhunter is incredible. Everything up to this point has been traded, so you can check that out. But the Manhunter, jump on issue number 31. It's going to be a brand new arc, so it's a good jumping on point for new readers. And I can't wait to be reading more Manhunter. But it's really your destination for your pre-order needs. Every month there's like an amazing selection of incredible discounts, 40, 50, even 75% off. The small press books from 25% off on up and beyond. The discounts are amazing. Shipping is available weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Basically whatever your needs are and what you're looking at to save money on. Books can be with or without bags and boards. You can completely customize your experience to your needs. I get my books shipped, bagged, and boarded. It's really nice to have them come out of every week, out of the box. They're all bagged and boarded. They're all immaculate. I just sit down and start reading. And I can't rave about them enough. So I want to thank them for their sponsorship. And you noticed something on the website that I never did before, Jim. You said they're supporting the Hero Initiative.
Yeah, there's when you're doing your orders, you look, there's like other comics. It's like the Independents and the various other titles. And it's a huge selection, by the way. One of the topics is Hero Initiative. And I saw that, so I just pulled it up. And this month they're soliciting, it's a what-if story about a new Fantastic Four. I believe it had like the Hulk, Ghost Rider, I think there was even Spider-Man thrown in there. But what drew my attention was
Wolverine one of the members as well?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so they're playing off of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What really drew my attention to this was the fact that the original artist who created this thing is since passed away. and his friends and family all gathered up his old notes and recreated his story. They got full permission from Marvel to produce this thing, and the proceeds are going towards Hero Initiative. Now, I don't know who this artist was. I really didn't even know about this team, but I just picked it up because that was such a cool thing to do, that they're honoring their friend by remembering him through this comic. It's, I was like, wow. And plus,
I'm glad you said that, because I never have checked that out. I'll pre-order that and just grab it, because, it goes towards the Hero Initiative. I'm sure it's going to be a cool story, because I'm sure the creators involved probably had a lot of passion between, to try and put that together and do that story. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But I like that. It's a great way to support Hero, and you get a comic book out of the deal.
Yeah,
and you're supporting the Hero Initiative, so that's cool. They also have all the variant covers and things like that are available for pre-order purposes as well. So if you're into variant covers, I know every so often I'll see one that really stands out for me, and it's great to be able to pre-order it and lock it in and get that variant cover. So it's a great subscription service for anyone looking for a discount subscription service. Right now, also, if you're not looking for a subscription service, but you're a trade fan and looking for collected editions, Instocktrades.com is their sister site. They have a discounted trade section that is staggering. Basically, if it's been traded and it's in print, they have it. And, it's one of those things where, and honestly, contact them if there's something that's not there, because it seems like they're just constantly adding titles. But the selection is amazing. We're just talking about Welcome to Tranquility, which is one of our favorite books. The first trade of that, collecting the first 6 issues, it's regularly $19.99 if you buy it in the stores. Only $12.99 if you order it through Instocktrades.com. Batman the Killing Joke Special Edition, $17.99. It's $11.69 there at a 35% discount. This is the one Brian Boland went back and he recolored all of his original work. There's a Batman black and white story that he colored in there as well. It's oversized, so anybody who has the original work, you're actually getting the art a little bit larger. It's cool because if you have the original one, you're getting something a little bit different. The coloring's been redone. You can compare it to your old volume. It is a good-looking work. Have you ordered that yet, Jim?
Yeah, I did.
Because you didn't order it initially, did you?
No, I didn't. Okay. And then the more people are on the forums are talking, I'm like, okay. Oh, good price. Ding. Mine. I haven't gotten it yet, but okay. I just ordered it. Was it last week, I think, or something like that? So yeah.
Captain Carrot and the Final Arc, which was a countdown tie-in, but it's a very self-contained story. This was a really charming read all the way through. It's regularly $19.99, only $12.59 at Instocktrades.com. Captain Carrot returns in this volume collecting the 3-issue miniseries. Instocktrades.com is a collected edition discount source. They have all the major publishers, so check out the amazing and ever-growing selection. Can't rave enough about them. We actually have plans that we're going to be announcing next week to tie in with Instocktrades.com a segment each month where we're going to take a look at something that's collected. We have a first one that's going to involve Darth Kramer, hint, hint. I will announce more next week on that. Got a segment that's going to be planned. It's going to be in May that we are going to be kicking off, and May is going to be our first one. We'll have another one for June, July, August. We're going to keep tying in with Instocktrades.com, getting a monthly segment together. Now that you and I are getting close to the tail end of Countdown, we will be tying in every month with that. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to have them as our sponsor. So that's Instocktrades.com, DCBService.com. Banners are going to be on RagingBullets.com this week. I haven't gotten their banners yet. This is that fresh of news for us. I've been talking with Cameron from DCBS this whole week and getting this set up. So I'm really excited now that we have them as a show sponsor. Speaking of sponsors, New York Comic Con 2008 is coming this week. And Jim, you and I are going to be there. It's April 18th to the 20th. And it's the largest pop culture event on the East Coast. An enormous show floor plays host to the top entertainment industry leaders, showcasing the latest and greatest in comics, graphic novels, anime, manga, video games, toys, movies, television, and so much more. One of the most original and inventive writers in the comics medium, Grant Morrison, will be the guest of honor at this year's New York Comic Con, where he will meet and greet his many loyal fans. Grant is the writer of such books as We 3, Doom Patrol, Animal Man, Batman, New X-Men, and All-Star Superman, and is working on DC's big event for 2008, Final Crisis. I'm excited for that.
Dun, dun, dun.
The New York Comic Con gives attendees access to top entertainment, industry talent, panels, autograph sessions, as well as sneak peeks at the upcoming television shows and motion pictures. Additional features guests have been announced: Charlie Adlard, Terry Brooks, Duncan Fegredo, Erwin Hazen, Tony Moore, Steve Niles, Sean Phillips, Eric Powell, Rick Remender, Leonard Starr, Dave Shelton, Chris Weston, Gail Simone, Denny O'Neil, Jeff Johns. I mean, the list goes on and on and on from the world of comics, television, media.
And whatnot.
And whatnot, absolutely. Check out www.newyorkcomiccon.com. There's a handy link on ragingbullets.com to click on that real quick. We want to thank the New York Comic Con, and we hope to see you this year when you stop by the Podcast Arena. I am so excited to be back at the Podcast Arena. Like I said, and please stop by and see us. We're going to have the iRiver there. We're looking to get our listeners on. I already got Ziggo from the forum who said he wants to stop by and do a Speeding Bullets real quick on Booster Gold. So if you want to stop by and see us, please feel free to bring a Speeding Bullets with us. You know, a title that you want to rant about real quick and get on the show and chat about, because, you know, this is a great opportunity for us to get you on. For those of you that wanted to do audio comments, but for whatever reason not had the chance, and you're going to be at the con and you want to get on the show, bring something with you and, you know, come and chat with us, because we're going to be there all day long every day. So you're going to be getting there Friday.
Yes. And
I know Friday's like the preview, and I'm going to be there midway through the day Friday. I think I arrive in New York at 4 o'clock. I have to work half day. Then I'm going to be heading out from work, and I should be there. My plan is to get over to the con by 5, which from our hotel's location to Javits shouldn't be a big deal at all. But you're going to be there in the Podcast Arena. I will be there the rest of the weekend after that, Friday night, straight on through to Sunday. I am so excited for this con. The guest list is...
Dude, man, I'm pumped. This is a giddy, you know, Christmas morning, you know, kind of, can't wait for it. I've been counting down at work and driving people I work with nuts, because they're laughing at me because I'm like,
And by the way, that guest list that we read off is so minuscule compared to how many people are going to be there. We just, you know, rattled off some great creators that are going to be there, but take a look at the site. Jim, easily double last year. There's creators like, you know, I mentioned Denny O'Neil, legend. There's tons of comic legends that are going to be there. There's a guest of honor list that's amazing. I've never seen such a huge list of guest of honor. Artist Alley, we've got our, you know, Tiny Titans. We just talked about Tiny Titans. Those guys are going to be there. Jamal Igle, who's been on the show, is going to be there. There's a talent list. Ethan Van Sciver is going to be there.
Freddie's going to be there. Freddie Williams.
Is Freddie there? I didn't see Freddie on the
I
Artist
thought I saw
Alley
his
list.
name. I thought I saw his name, but now I'm like...
I think you're wrong on that. I don't think
you think I'm wrong?
On there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't see Freddie on the... We'll have to scratch that.
Oh.
Did you see him for sure on there?
I thought I did.
Hang on. The guest list for this is pretty staggering. The Artist Alley is full of people such as Jamal Igle, who's been on the show. Our friends from Tiny Titans, I know Franco, table set up there. He's going to be there. Bob Wyachek is going to be there. But, I mean, please
Ethan
go to...
Van Sciver.
Yeah,
is
Ethan
going to
Van
be there.
Sciver. Ooh, that's going to be...
Yeah.
It's a wonderful list of people that are going to be there. Every time I go to the site, there seems to be somebody new being added. So if for any reason you have been on the fence about coming to this con, tickets are still available. Show up to this thing. We want to meet you. We're going to be over in the Podcast Arena, which is a great area. We're going to be next to our friends from Comic Timing. But there's, the list from Podcast Arena that's going to be there is staggering. There's people coming over all the way from England with podcasters. Birds
Really?
of Geek. Yeah,
cool.
They're going to both be there as well. Comic News Insider guys are going to be there. Comic Geek Speak's going to be there.
Geeks Unite's going to be there.
Yeah, Geeks Unite. Jeez, yeah, thank you. Raph and Juan, who we'll definitely be recording with on some level there, because we just can't be there and not chat with Raph and Juan. So it'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to this particular convention. So you're hearing us geeking out because we're excited to be there and we want to meet you. So that's nycomiccon.com. Go to ragingbullets.com, click on the link, and pop on over there and check out the site and see what's going to be showing up at that convention. We got a donation, Jim, that I do want to talk about real quick. I've actually been lax on it just because you and I have had so much to record. But we had a $100 donation. And I don't know if people noticed it, but we haven't had a regular show sponsor for a number of episodes lately. That our situation changed with our previous sponsor, who was wonderful to us. But one of our listeners, Brian Hack, that's Haack, sent us a $100 donation. I even emailed him back. I said, dude, are you sure you want to donate that much? We don't do this for pay. You know, it's a free kind of thing. We love having sponsors for the show and things like that. But he just said that he's really enjoying the show. He said that he thinks Hawkman is pretty cool too, which, so he and I are, we're brothers of the Hawk. So that was kind of a bonus there. But it really came at a time where, we have server costs every month for this show, and the website costs us money and things like that. I'm happy if I break even on the show, on that end of it. I'm not looking to make money on this. I want this to be a free podcast for all of you. And honestly, Jim and I will sometimes, especially when you come after work, we'll order food and things like that. So whenever we get donations from listeners, it kind of goes towards like a meal for us or something, because we do subs and pizza and things like that, because we're really on the go a lot during the week when we do this. And now that we're back to weekly, we're going to be back to the scramble of getting episodes together. I'm excited, though. It's I think after everything we've gone through recently, both on a personal level, I'm excited to get this show back weekly again. And it's time to do that. So this 65 is going to be kind of our transition episode back into the weekly show. And we're getting back in the weekly grind. You're going to see next week that it's our first kickoff episode for our 2-year anniversary. And it's a good time for us to, kind of get the show back where it's going. We have a new numbering scheme starting next episode. It's kind of our statement that we're back to weekly and everything like that. It's kind of our own Raging Bullets 2.0. So I'm excited for that. We have a couple of packages and things, too, that later on in the episode we'll open up. And when we do kind of our listener rant section, we'll get to that we got some nice things from listeners as well. We have T-shirts we're going to have at the show. Legion Star from the forum put together T-shirts for us, and if you haven't had a chance to see them, go to RagingBullets.com. I'll actually pin the topic up on there. He actually invented a proud bulleteer of Raging Bullets logo. We are going to be setting up a section on the website. He is going to be creating shirts for us, for people who want to wear them to cons and things like that. And the one that he created, the proud bulleteer one, first thing out of my mouth was, I want one.
Dude, that looked cool. I was like, that's a definite...
Yeah. And he said he has one for you and me there, so I told him, I said, I'll grab one from you, and we'll wear them over the weekend. I'm excited. This con's going to be so awesome. So I'm looking forward to meeting anybody at the con, and I want to thank him for putting that together. But that's going to be coming to the website. We had a lot of announcements at the opening of this one, Jim, so I want to get us right into the show. Tell us what kind of podcast we are for newer listeners.
Well, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
And definitely check out RagingBullets.com. We have regular updates on where the show is headed. We have all kinds of listener content on there that's incredible, including Where's Whatnot Now. We'll chat a little bit later about some of the new ones we got on that. We actually got a comic cover for one of the things that we were joking around about last episode. But let's get in. Let's talk some Countdown right away. You want to get right into that?
Let's do it.
Jim, this is your baby, so whenever you're ready.
Our first issue will be Countdown to Final Crisis, number 12. The writer is Paul Dini, with Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Story consultant Keith Giffen. Pencils by Jesus Saez and Tom Dernick. Inks by Jimmy Palmiotti. Colors by Tom Chu. Letterer Ken Lopez. Cover by Stephen Raux, R-O-U-X, and Karine, B-O-C-C-A-N-F-U-S-O. Assistant editor is Elizabeth Garland, and editor is Mike Carlin.
This cover, dude. I don't know, but I guess my assumption with Darkseid on all this, I didn't know if he was cannon fodder or not. Because, they've been doing Death of the New Gods, and they mentioned that somebody was going to live throughout the whole thing. I wasn't sure who that somebody was going to be. I guess I assumed that he was a potential target as well. And who knows, where things will wind up with him. But this was when I first started to realize, when Countdown number 12 came out, that Darkseid is a much more major player. Because he started off in the beginning like he was just accepting the end of it all. Now you're looking at this and it's like, dude's a major player.
He's manipulating everything that's going on into this. This isn't just a villain reacting to it. This is someone who's like, okay, this isn't the end. This is a beginning. This is an opportunity, and I'm going to seize that opportunity for my benefit. And these covers, especially the last couple, have just been... they're kicking it up a notch. I'm not to say the other ones were bad. It was just something about these. I'm looking at them. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. It's kind of like giving you more of an insight into what is going to happen into the issue, and I'm really liking that.
It's really more so, with this issue, I'm starting to realize when it's saying Countdown to Final Crisis, these are the events this convergence. It's an appropriate title here, because this is starting to bring everything together. The storylines that have been kind of separate, it seemed, are all starting to come together and lead us to Final Crisis. And I keep thinking of this as more of a contained story, because I guess I was used to 52, where 52 had an ending at the end, a definite ending, even though it left storytelling to spin out of it. That's how we've got this multiverse that we're chatting about now. Countdown's been one of those where I guess I was reading it kind of like I was 52, expecting that to end in the same manner, and I'm starting to realize more and more now, Countdown is really the kickoff point for Final Crisis. This is going to lead right into Final Crisis. There's going to be a lot of dangling threads out of this thing that are going to go right into Final Crisis and lead into that huge event. So I'm seeing this all coming together now in a very different way. It's interesting. It's really interesting. There's some things that I'm thrilled about as I've continued reading on Countdown. There's some things that I'm on the fence with because I'm questioning choices on there, but I'm not at the point where I'm angry or happy about those things I'm on the fence with, because I'm waiting to see where the story's going. It's for the first time in a while, actually for the first time ever, I started participating in the listener rant thread because we were talking about recent issues of Countdown. And I'm not going to go into that on this episode because we're not going to get quite to those issues, but you can kind of see where my head's at and how I'm feeling about current issues, because some big things have been happening from 12 straight on through, and this is the kickoff to that. So definitely go to the forum if you're currently reading Countdown up to date, and check out the listener rant thread. You can kind of check what some of my thoughts are. And please keep in mind, everything I put up there is purely speculation. I don't know anything as far as what's going on. I'm just throwing out, based on my reading, where my head's at right now. And feel free to kind of join into those discussions or add your own commentary. But let's kick into this issue 12.
This issue opens up with probably one of the coolest descriptions of Apocalypse. Despair freely burns from within and steadily fouls the outer atmosphere, where even the silence of space, the world moans a sound that chills the soul with its dull emptiness and charred malevolence. I started reading that page, and I'm like, I'm not going to quote the whole page, but I'm noticing something, especially when it's Gray and Palmiotti, that as I'm taking my notes, going, oh, that's awesome. I'm just like, wow. There is just... It gives you such a great picture, not only just the words. You're looking at the images on there with just that, dude, this is hell right here. This is Dante's Inferno, pure, just bona fide hell. And I'm just like, wow. It catches you and it just sucks you right in. And you're just like, this is what a comic is. This is just a raw emotional response. Hoorah.
Grant Morrison, it was either Grant Morrison or Dan DiDio. It was one of the interviews. I read it on Newsarama. So definitely check out recent interviews with Grant Morrison and Dan DiDio on there for the exact quote on this. But they were talking about Darkseid and the intention that DC has right now with Darkseid. Like you said, it's like hell. And they're reestablishing the fact that Darkseid's a god. For a while there, I loved Superman, Batman, so this isn't a knock on that book in any way, shape, or form. But there were, there's this whole segment in there where Batman went toe-to-toe with Darkseid. One of the points that was made in the interview was Darkseid's a god. Batman should not be able to go toe-to-toe with him. And this is about reestablishing him as this is hell. He is a god. And I think recent events have started to show that this guy is operating on a very different level than anyone's realized. And it is reestablishing back to his roots and who he was. If you read the Fourth World Omnibuses, this manipulator, this master planner behind the scenes, this is who Darkseid was envisioned to be. This god, is exactly who Jack Kirby envisioned him to be right now. And it's great they're getting this character back to his roots, because he's been very interesting throughout this. And it's a nice little swerve that throughout this we've started to see the puppet master emerging as his plans have come to fruition. It's very cool.
Our description of Apocalypse leads us right to the Challengers as they adjust to being on Apocalypse. And I kind of like the fact that they're not just on, oh, okay, here we go, because this is a spooky, freaky place. You got Ray, who, he's obviously shaking because he feels like he's failed and all that type of stuff. And, it just... who they are. I liked that we have this natural reaction, and I also like seeing Jason in uniform. I like seeing him in the Red Robin costume. But
this is foreboding, though.
Yeah,
these characters they're going to a darker and darker place. And the premise, as we're going into Final Crisis, it looks like the villains are starting to win. And you feel that here. It's very dark. There's like a cloud hanging over these characters. They haven't given up, and that's what makes them so heroic. But you can see it in Ray. Ray is kind of our accessible point into where this is going to be going, I think.
Yeah, I know, and because where they are, you honestly feel the villains can win. This isn't Metropolis where you figure, okay, Superman will fly in and save the day. This is Apocalypse. This is the place where the bad guys are at the advantage, and it was really cool because and I mentioned Metropolis, but it's cool how they segued from this dark place to the happy home life of Jimmy Olsen and Forager. They go right into Metropolis, and they have like a little kind of banter between them. It seemed like almost like a non-essential banter, but then boom, as Jimmy's getting out of the shower, written on the mirror is to Apocalypse. So it's continuing this tie back to this same place. You go from the darkness of Apocalypse to the light, friendly, fun thing of Metropolis, and saying, you now have to go back there too as well. So it's a nice flow through.
It's interesting in recent issues. Are you current?
Yes.
And
yes.
I don't want to jump too far ahead. I'll just say right now, for people who are current and reading issues like 4 and 3, 5, 4, and 3, you're going to see who is writing this. And so it's kind of an interesting point now to go back and take a look. I'm enjoying being current with the book, but now exploring these issues with the information I have currently, because it's nice to see the threads that were kind of leading to where we're at this point, not realizing they were there. So I do urge people to go back and reread some of these issues, because I'm getting a lot of benefit out of going back and seeing these now from this standpoint, especially in this next segment with Harley and Mary. I'm noticing things about Mary in this segment that I didn't notice the first time around. I was so giddy over the fact that she was redeemed here. Her behavior and the way she's talking to Harley right here. Did you see this?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. I know where you're going with this.
It's we jump right back to Themyscira, where Mary Marvel is a slave. She's not considered one of the future potential Amazonians or a possible Fury. She's there as serving girl, and it's just not a good thing for her. One of the guards walks past her, bumps into her, and then backhands her for, hey, get out of my way. You look at this mess you've made, and you see just Mary is just like she's got to take it, and it's a really nice, just especially what we see later happening and all that. It's a really cool, needed point.
Look at her in her dialogue, though. At least no one seems to notice me, which should make it easier to figure out what the hell is going on here. In her dialogue when she's talking to Harley, hating you right now. Why don't you shut the hell up, Harley? Interesting, the quiet moments with Harley, I'm noticing here she's not so sweet.
Yeah, she's not so innocent Mary anymore. There is still a bit of the dark Mary in her. And it's this, and within that dialogue between her and Harley, it's because you got the levity of Harley making little jokes, bad slave, and just being Harley. But then you have the story behind it, where they're saying that Granny's going to announce the new Furies. Things are going to come to a head. It's basically, we're getting to the point where it's now go time for the Themyscira people. So it's pushing it along with light, with some levity, with some little foreshadowing, and then just the full story going through. I like these little sections like this where later on you realize, oh, that's cool.
It isn't. I guess I'm really noticing it this time around, Mary's behavior.
Yeah, I didn't completely notice that at all. No.
I think I was so giddy with choices that she made that I didn't notice this. We get over, of course, to granny goodness, and use that term loosely, with Desaad.
I was really like, wow, with this interaction. Now, just the dealings between these two, it's like, it looks like Desaad basically told her, hey, everything's hopeless, we're going to die, but Granny doesn't accept this. Granny is still loyal to Darkseid. She's still like, hey, he will lead us to victory. I am still loyal to Darkseid. And I like seeing the difference between Desaad.
Yeah. Meaning that she's willing to go out fighting for him. Yeah,
she'll die for him. And, but Desaad, it doesn't seem like he's as loyal to Granny. And this is really, for me, one of the first times I saw more of a difference between the two.
I mean, Desaad has a history of being an opportunist where necessary. He has betrayed Darkseid before.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in character for him to be looking out for number one. He's a creepy so-and-so.
Oh, yeah. And
I totally understand why Darkseid keeps him at his side. You want to keep an eye on this fella.
And keep your friends close, your enemies closer, basically. Yeah.
And I don't know that he considers him an enemy. He considers him the weenie that he really is. But by the same token, Darkseid keeps an eye on this fella. Here's the part that really, as we get into this Darkseid Solomon game that they're playing here with people, notice that the Mary's being picked up, and then, we got the characters that are really in play here, from the Flash to Superman to Donna Troy to Granny Goodness. It's the whole gambit of heroes and villains right now that they're playing chess with the fate of the universe.
I love the chess analogy. I really do. Especially we have these two mega powerful people playing this game with all the other characters. They're putting people in play. They're making their decision, and it's not just something as simple as, okay, I'm going to throw, my Superman up against your, so-and-so. But there's more. It's a complicated thought process. Like in chess, they say you got to think 8 moves ahead and plan your strategy that way. These guys are doing the exact same thing. Like with this one, we see Midge moves Mary Marvel into play. And, up against Mary Marvel, up against Granny Goodness. And you see the move into play, and then the very next segue goes right into, back to Themyscira and all that. So it's this nice tool and a nice flow-through method, but it's also a cool way to look at what these characters are doing.
While the innocent is still in play, I can make a passive sacrifice, Darkseid. So... What sacrifice is he talking about? Interesting.
My first thought was Mary Marvel, was the sacrifice, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Sometimes you got to throw out, a pawn or one of the lower characters for the win.
For the larger
win. And
but it's interesting to see these two, because in the traditional villain sense, Darkseid believes in his own philosophy. He has definitely got his own basis and his goals of basically ruling everything and that, controlling everything. Midge is, got his own philosophy as well, and he's sticking to his guns and playing his game there as well. They're two interesting characters because both of them have a firm belief in what they're doing, that they think they're doing the right thing. Even though Midge is, really very bad at it.
Yeah, Midge is on the ropes, but I like the fact that he's not just laying down. Right. He's like, I'm going down, I'm going to go down swinging. Maybe I can get lucky. Maybe if I play some of my wild cards, maybe they'll plan out. You do see that he's accepting the fact that right now he's being outplayed, but he's like, I'm not done yet. Let's see what happens if I do this. Hey, let's try this. And I like that in Midge. I'm starting to back Midge a little bit more as I see his play. Granted, I still think he is a psycho nutjobby who is an evil guy, but I am backing him more. I am, if I'm like, okay, you got to pick between Midge and Darkseid. Whose side do you want to win? None of the above, but if it has to be one, I'm going to go with Midge.
Yeah. We're getting into this great segment now.
Back on Themyscira, we've had the Fury ceremony is about to start, and dude, this was a cool bit while I'm reading. I was like, oh man, this was neat. It's funny because you see, Granny dressed up in the Athena outfit, the Athena disguise, but her words are really pure Granny. She praises them about how they've proven their battle and trained in combat, and one day soon they'll thrust their swords into the hearts of their enemies. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Athena is the goddess of war, but that's not Athena's words. That's Granny up there. That's Granny talking about her furies killing and destroying.
But I like that she did this over time, and that's where this story being told over time, the Granny Goodness one, is really important, because she had to do a gradual transition to being comfortable speaking the way that she normally would, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that way they didn't see it outright that wasn't really Athena.
Yeah. And it's a beautifully played, especially the way she broke them down. She took the people the females who were at their worst. They were, homeless. They were abusive relationships. They were just beaten down by society. They were ignored. They were kicked to the curb, and she took them in. And then she, applied more pressure, broke them down even further. It was great mind wash.
It also made them believe that breaking them down was empowering them.
Yeah, it made them a better person. It's that which does not kill you makes you stronger. And it was just a beautiful mind play that she did.
Oh, sure.
I was reading that going, this is awesome. Of course, we get the close-up of who the new Furies are, and I was honestly shocked when I saw that Trisha, who was one of the new Furies, I immediately assumed she was dead and gone when she failed Granny. But seeing that Granny made her one of the Furies was even better for me, because you think about it. Here's this person who you've beaten, you've broken down, and now she feels she's failed. She's failed Granny, and Athena is going to give her this another chance. Athena just made her 100% blindly loyal to Granny goodness. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful play on Granny's part. I was like, oh, this is outstanding.
Mary's reaction in all this is, are you people crazy? She's trying to seduce you with this rhetoric about war and some glorious battle. I've heard this kind of talk before from Eclipso. It's interesting that she's still so impulsive, so reactionary to the situation. I mean, she has no powers right now. She not only put herself at risk right here, but she put at risk totally no concern for Harley or Holly at this point.
I was like, when I first read that, I was like, what the heck are you doing, Mary? This is not... And I literally was like, huh? And it wasn't until we start seeing more stuff about Mary that I'm like, okay, that makes sense why she did that now. But that was just a really cool... It was just that guttural reaction of her. And you gotta love grannies, Oh dear, it seems we have a disgruntled servant among our ranks. Furies, kill her. I loved that. That was just a... Kill this one. They bore me. I was giddy with that. I thought that was cool.
It is interesting, though, because as I'm looking at that, I'm reading this so differently now than I did the first time through. I totally viewed Mary completely differently when I read this through the first time around. And now I'm seeing Mary as, I'm like, boy, is she being really impulsive here? What is going on with her?
Yeah.
And I love these bits when Hippolyta comes in. I mean, that was great. Because she really... If anyone dies today, it's going to be you, imposter. And she's standing there with the sword and the outfit, and it was so funny that this was such foreshadowing, and I didn't see it the first time around.
Yeah, I liked how Hippolyta was able to go toe-to-toe with Granny.
Oh, yeah.
And she was able to throw down. That is, a really cool just statement of how much of why she is an Amazonian queen. She is a warrior queen. She is Hippolyta. I thought that was like, wow, that is cool. And she drove Granny to run. Now, the only complaint I could possibly have is I wish this fight had been even longer, because that was just absolutely a really cool, just bam, 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 back and forth, throwing in the banter between Holly and Harley as they're fighting their respected Furies. You got Hippolyta in the mix. I loved how that was a great just inner feel and flow. But, dude, you gotta love that she drove Granny Goodness off of her island. She forced her to run. She actually forced her to turn, and, do the tactical retreat.
Especially because she was no longer alone.
Right.
Alone against you, you knew I would fail. But with several strong, good women at my side, you falter as the coward you are. The second that she cut her and threw her off, and Granny knew that there was any possibility of real defeat there, Granny took off, basically to fight another day. Real interesting.
Yeah. And, of course, the segment ends with, Harley not making, I don't know if it was the wisest of choices, but I'm glad she did it. But she follows Granny after basically, oh no, you're not getting away. We're not done with you yet. And Mary and Holly reluctantly follow through behind her. That was appropriate, especially they're like, I'm going to kill her one of these days. It was that buddy cop moment between those two that I want to see continue on after Countdown. These are the two now that I'm like, I wish they'd do their own little series. The Holly and Harley team. I don't know what they would call the series or what they would do with it and whatnot, but I would like to see it.
I thought I read a rumor they're going to.
Really?
I thought.
Oh, dude, I would love...
I might be wrong. I mean, I thought there was a rumor that they were going to do that. I would buy that in an instant. I love these two together.
Yeah.
They're total buddy cop.
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm watching here with this Mary stuff, and it's funny. Here's a moment where I'm looking at what I think is heroic Mary, but she's talking about killing Granny Goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that could be just a figure of speech there. I'm trying to get into her head and figure out what was going on at this stage with her.
Yeah, when I first read that, I completely took that as just figuratively and that type of stuff, but... You don't know how much of Mary is Mary, and we'll talk about that later.
And not Mary, yeah.
Yeah.
Piper. I was so glad to see Piper back in this issue because I know it's been one of your favorite stories. It's been one of mine, too. Mary's been the one that's been my latch-on story, but this has been my second favorite easily, and I know it's been your top one. These guys, Piper and Trickster, were the two that I never wanted to see anything happen to either of them, and I didn't see where this was going with Piper at all.
No, Piper was a complete swerve for me that I was like, wow, this was just, and this moment in the desert, it's it. He's basically like, okay, he knows he's at the end of his ropes. He's accepted his fate that he's going to die in this desert. He's sitting there with the flute. He's got Trickster's severed hand. And we get this really cool moment where he basically reveals, the moment he realized he was gay. And just, who it was from a sci-fi show that he had watched, and he realized he thought the little boy in the thing was cuter than the girl, and I was like, it was a neat just retrospect and insight into Piper, and it's just a very human moment that that is like just the significant, cool, that it's like this calming type of peace, and then we see this massive bright light and the huge boom of a boom tube, and I was just like, wow, this was just a cool, okay, yes, yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And he's saying that to Trickster because he's still talking to Trickster. And it was just like, I was like, oh man, what the heck is going on with this? This is just, as the story reaches an end, it doesn't end. It's still got one more chapter. You got one more thing to go with, Piper. You're not done yet. I love that.
So you got Holly, Harley, and Mary heading over to Apocalypse. Right now you have the
Challengers.
Piper.
Yeah, you have the Challengers. You have the Themyscira crew on Apocalypse. You have Piper. Obviously, if there's a boom tube, they're obviously going there. So everything, all roads are leading to Apocalypse, and I like that. It's we're getting that closure. We're getting that finality in the story. So it's like the build up. It's and well,
Karate Kid.
Yeah, leads us back to Val and the others at Bloodhaven. Brother Eye looks like he's basically finished his construction, and he has identified a world that would be, better suited to its prime directive. Now, obviously, we have all the other characters going to Apocalypse, so why not Brother Eye? I love that. I was like, oh my god, he's going there too. Sweet! This is just this is where the final battleground, and that's what I'm thinking, that the final battleground is going to be on Apocalypse, and I like that. Especially because we have the death of the fourth world, so why wouldn't we do that, have the final battle there? And I was just like, neat.
And I love that it's, Buddy Blank and his grandson there, and the whole thing gets blown up right around them.
Yeah, and they're spared, and, they leave Buddy and the grandson there. So I was like, okay, yeah, he's honoring his creator and the one kid that was nice to him. But granted, I was thinking about that, and like, yeah, you're honoring him, you're sparing him now, but what's going to happen? You're going to return back to Earth after you've, taken over Apocalypse, so are you really honoring these guys?
Can I comment on the end about this origin of Cersei?
Yes.
Cersei. I mean, the artist on this one is Aaron Lopresti, who is going to be the new artist on Wonder Woman. Very sexy, well suited to Wonder Woman. I think this is just going to be a really, really nice addition to that series. This is the kind of art I want to see in Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It's got strong. It's when I say sexy, it's sexy, but it's also got strength to it. And that's Wonder Woman's all about that. It's go ahead.
It's sexy, not slutty.
Yeah.
It's that.
You don't want, that's a
that power. That it's that strong woman who is beautiful and who is a presence, and it's just a great drawing of both. And even Cersei, just the way she's drawn, the way Wonder Woman's drawn. I'm in complete agreement with you.
We see Cersei, we see Wonder Woman, we see Hippolyta, very different characters that are being presented in this, right to the gods. We've got Ares in the background and things like that. All of them are very well drawn. All of them fit their characterizations. I really, really like this. So I'm very excited for Aaron Lopresti taking over on Wonder Woman for the art, because I just think that's going to be an improvement for the series. It's funny, as all roads were converging here, I was left at the end of this issue thinking to myself, why? Why are they going to Apocalypse, and where is this going to go? It was probably issue 12. I enjoyed it, but I was very confused at the end.
See, I saw it as it made sense to me. Just
Really?
because, yeah, as I said, because we got the death of the new gods. We have the end of the fourth world. We have Darkseid and Midge playing such a strong role in the thing. And for me, it all made sense that it would go there.
And I was like, from that sense, I guess what I was saying is, why are they all being pulled there, though? I'm not saying that I was confused as far as why the story was heading to Apocalypse. I was confused as to why was Piper being pulled there, for example. I had I'm like, where is Piper? I understood the girls following Granny Goodness. That made sense to me. But I'm like, what is Piper being pulled there for? And that was the confusing part I'm talking about. I had no idea, I didn't see his story converging into this in any way.
Yeah, that was for me, Piper was a great swerve. It started when they killed off Trickster and not Piper, because I was so betting that Piper was a dead man. But then they kill off Trickster. I'm like, what? They kill? Oh my god, that's a sort. And then when we finally realize what Piper's role in all of this is, I'm like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. That is wonderful. That is just wow. I loved it. Let's jump right into it. Our next issue will be Countdown to Final Crisis number 11. The writer is Paul Dini with Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Story consultant Keith Giffen. Pencils by Mike Norton. Inks by Mark McKeenan. Colors by Pete Pentez. Letterer Travis Lanham. Cover once again by Stephen Raw and Karine Buchanfuso. Buchanfuso.
I think we're better off just spelling
Boccanfuso.
I'm sure we both.
Yeah, I know we're butchering it, right. And I don't mean to. Assistant editor Elizabeth Garland and editor Mike Carlin. Dude, once again, covers, telling the story. We got Piper just basically going into the light. It's a neat segue considering the way his last bit ended with him in the boom tube. But he's got the.
He's dragging his pet hand behind him.
Yes, I saw. But the cool thing is, it's not like blatantly out in front there. It's kind of tucked away behind him. They didn't want to take away from the moment of him going into the light, but they still wanted to include the hand. And I love that. I was like, oh, that's cool. That is neat.
I liked the artwork in this issue a great deal as well. I like Mike Norton's art, and it just really worked in this issue. The consistency between it. The last issue with Jesus Saez, that one continued straight on through with this one. They really did a nice job as the series ended here with staying pretty consistent with the art styles.
Yeah, the nice flow through, boom, boom, issue to issue. I like that. It's
good artist choices.
Yeah, and it's good art. Their usage of it. I don't know if this is like their regular, if they modified their drawing or their style, or if that's just their art. So I don't know if it was like an editor choice saying,
I see a
follow
difference
this
between
to
this issue and the previous issue, but it's not like a jarring difference.
Right,
it's really, just really solid art throughout the issues. I really enjoy it.
Issue opens up with Midge and Darkseid on Apocalypse. And once again, we get some nice opening dialogue. I like when these issues open up with something that you're just like, wow, that's a gripping thing. You have the home field advantage and a billion parademons at your disposal. But you are a new god, and your time is drawing to a close. To put it successfully, Darkseid, check. And as we're seeing this,
I love that Brother Eye's a puzzle piece, though, for Midge.
Yeah,
and that's that linking thread between these, that they've been playing with these characters, positioning them, manipulating them. It adds a lot more weight to the various events that have been going on through Piper and Trickster, the various events that have been going on through the Challengers, the various events that have been going on through Mary Marvel. They've all been manipulated. They've all been put into play for the purposes of Darkseid and Midge, for their battle, really, for supremacy here.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Midge actually thinks he has Darkseid in check. That he's like, he feels, okay, I'm moving here. Here's something, you deal with this. Check. Now, I like how, Midge is, as we said, last issue, he pretty much he was up against the ropes. He's like, I ain't done yet. Here, how about this, buddy? It's a cool play.
But as with any great chess game, you don't, sometimes you got to not worry about the thing that's right in front of you. You got to worry about what the guy's doing behind the scenes while you're paying attention to this. And that's the great thing about Darkseid. Darkseid's one of those guys, okay, let's let this go on here. I've got like 3 other moves going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, Darkseid's Bobby Fischer. He knows what he's doing.
He's the Bobby Fischer of the DC universe. That takes away a lot of his intimidation factor.
Hey, I don't know. That little kid, was a terror. He took down he made grown men cry. So you gotta.
All right, let's carry on.
Okay, this leads as we see the Brother Eye and all that stuff. This leads to Karate Kid and Una as they escape. From Brother Eye. It's kind of cool. I like how, with their reaction. They don't know where they are. The tech's kind of familiar. They're like, okay. But they're like, we know we got to get away from this. Let's move on. We'll keep a low profile. Let's keep moving and keep fighting and see what we got to do. That's one of those, a true hero things. You got to step up. You got to do it. You can't just say, okay, it's done. They're still thinking, how can we turn this around? How can we fight Brother Eye? How can we save the universe? How can we heal Val? They got a lot of stuff on their plate, so I like that. Yeah.
Well, we get to Jason Todd and all them.
Yeah.
I really like those segments because it's funny. Jason's a jerk in it, but he's right.
Yeah. And this is an example of another great segue that Gray and Palmiotti do when they're on the countdown issues. We have Val saying, we need to keep moving. You go right into Jason saying, we need to keep moving. It's the characters from one-to-one segue where they're saying the exact same thing. It's a nice flow through that. I was like, oh, that I noticed it with them. And I love it when they do that in the countdown issues.
I like... It's really this Paul Dini, Justin Gray, Jimmy Palmiotti with Keith Giffen as a story consultant. It seems to have, this has all tightened up a great deal as it's been going on. Mm-hmm. This is really hard to tell stories like this, the way that they're doing it. I like the risk they took with this series. Some things have paid off stronger than others, but that's what I've enjoyed about it, is this feels different than a lot of titles that I'm reading right now that, they're told in certain arcs. And don't get me wrong, I love my monthly reads like that too. I'm not knocking either or. This is a nice experimental piece to have in my reading every week. And this is very much an experiment when they do these weekly series. I'm hoping Trinity does this experiment a little differently.
It's got to. You think about it. Look at what they did with 52, then how they changed it around for Countdown. It's got to be something a little bit different. There'll still be the weekly format, and it'll probably be an ongoing story arc over the 52.
But I'm sure it'll be a contained story arc, too, where I think Trinity will have a beginning, middle, and an ending.
I think so. And
whereas this is not going to have... It's going to have an ending of sorts, but I don't expect... Do you expect this to end clean?
No. And it can't, because
it's
this
Countdown to Final Crisis. So, I mean, just the title itself says that it is not going to end in this book. It's going to end in Final Crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, like any serialized storytelling, realistically, there's going to be threads spinning out of Final Crisis, too. But I have a funny feeling, especially with the nature of Final Crisis, that there's going to be a lot of resolutions. And anything that's spinning out of Final Crisis at the end, to me, is going to be building up for us how their universe has changed in the DC universe, if that makes sense. Or maybe defining what the universe is now out of all this. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for this summer and the possibilities of where this is all going, because the plans that we've been hearing about, the company's been saying, we've been planning this, we've been planning this, we've been planning this, we've been putting this into place. We're going to finally see a lot of answered questions to what those plans exactly are.
Yeah, and you gotta, we're dealing with the challengers there. You gotta love, just Jason Todd, how to motivate people and make new friends. He's trying to get, he's trying to encourage Ray and just motivate him. I'm tired of your whining, Palmer. Get up. You're supposed to be a genius. So I suggest you put that big brain to work on our problem. You gotta love Jason.
Well, and it fits, though, the Bat family. When you think about it, Bruce isn't very comfortable in cosmic situations. Jason would be less comfortable because he doesn't have the exposure that Bruce did. So, I mean, if you take a look at, remember back to Justice League number 0 before the kickoff to this series, how we got to see that great panel that Brad Meltzer wrote, where Bruce talked about how he feels small in those type of situations. He admitted that to Clark, which isn't something he would normally do to show a weakness. If Bruce says that, what's Jason feeling right now? This is totally out of his league. He's been running around for years behind the scenes in Gotham right now, causing, his own kind of problems and things like that, doing that. But now he's on Apocalypse. Talk about feeling helpless, feeling powerless in this type of situation. How am I going to survive this? What possible advantage can I take and where? He's analyzing the situation. He isn't just sitting there, but his lashing out also shows fear.
Yeah, he's like reached a breaking point. And we even see that where, as the team's discussing what they got to do, Ray's like, well, I don't know how this affects the great disaster. And they're having their own discussion. Jason basically comes to his own conclusion. He's like, that's it. I'm not sticking around here anymore. We got to keep moving. I'm going to take off. And he actually leaves the group alone, which, on one hand, isn't the smartest thing to do, because there are strength in numbers and there's safety in numbers, especially when you're on an alien planet that you have no idea where you are. But it makes sense. It makes the point where Jason is at that point where he's beyond his normal rational thought analyzing. He's just that gut reaction where he's like, I can't stay anymore. I got to keep moving. I got to go.
And he also goes with what we've seen as his MO all the way back to when Winnick reintroduced him. Jason is for Jason. Mm-hmm. And while we are seeing a change in him due to events that have happened to him on Earth 51, there's still that role for him, and that's more of a comfort level for him. My hope here is that I will be sorely disappointed if his meeting with that Batman and that change with him hasn't taken hold, meaning that we aren't going to see a different Jason spinning out of this, an evolution of Jason. But I also like the fact that we haven't forgotten all the stuff that this guy's done before he was one of the challengers, and that this would be more of a comfort level for him. I don't want to see him be cookie cutter, like back to this all the time. It fits here. He's on Apocalypse. You're on Hell, like you said. You're basically on a Hell world. This looks like nothing. At least when he was on Earth 51, it was Earth. This is different on such a wide scale compared to any of the places that they've traveled. Nothing is familiar. Yeah, you're seeing machinery and cosmic powers and things like that are way out of his league, and he is being very reactionary to it all.
Yeah, and I liked how, once again, another use of segues. As Jason's taking off leaving, he's saying how, I'm going to look for a couple, jaws to bust up, and right from there, we see Val is doing exactly that. Jason's talking about kicking butt. We see Val kicking some butt and questioning, the locals to figure out why Brother Eye's on Apocalypse. It's nice flow through with very similar characters, but they're also very different because you got Jason who's obviously is more back to Red Hood Jason where he's out for himself, and you have Val and Una who's a team. They're fighting together. She's like, "Hey, how are you feeling? I'm doing better." You see the heroes, and then you see Jason, and they're both doing very similar actions, but their motivation behind it is different. Jason's looking for a way home. Val and Una are looking for why are they here? How can we save the universe? We have to be heroes. We have to do our thing. It's cool to see same action, different motivation, interaction type things with that. I like that about these issues.
I like Jason's logical analysis of the whole thing, though, when he looks at Brother Eye, because he says to himself, he's looking at all this, and it's terrifying. He's on Hell, he's at the far end of the universe, there's a disaster, but my serious problem is that I'm trapped in the middle of Apocalypse with insane technologies mingled on the streets filled with blood. And still, Brother Eye has found a way to get here, meaning Brother Eye traveled to Hell, so if Brother Eye can get here, Brother Eye can get me back. And that's what he's looking out for. And he says me. He doesn't refer to the challengers, doesn't refer to the team. It's almost like I would have liked to have seen if he was able to get back that way, if he would have gone back for them. Did that Earth 51 Batman on any level break through his armor? And I think he did, but I don't think we're going to see it for a while.
Yeah, it's one of this is, I so wanted to see Red Robin be a hero. I so wanted to see the redemption of Jason Todd. But as we see more of this, we see more of Jason is out for himself. We see Red Hood as opposed to Red Robin. And I'm like, then I'm sitting there going, I want this. And I'm like, no, this is the true to the character form, but it'd be so cool if he came back. And I was just like, it's one of those toss-up things. As the countdown is going through, I'm reading and I'm anticipating, I'm wondering what's going to ultimately happen to this guy. And it's a swing thing where 1 second I'm like, yeah, and the other second I'm like, oh my god, it's one of the things I like about Countdown. It's one of the things I like about Jason Todd, Red Robin, Red Hood, whatever you want to call him.
If the funny part is, if that Batman from Earth 51 was here, do you think Jason would have reacted this way?
I think Batman and Red Robin would have swung off. I think the two, because we saw,
but it is Batman still.
But we saw on Earth 51 when they were bickering, he's like, I got a war to fight, and he took off, and that's when Jason went after him. I think the two of them would have looked at each other, there would have been that silent nod between the two of them, they were like taking off, and as they were swinging away, it would have been like, yeah, good idea to ditch those idiots. Let's see if we can get off this planet. I think we've seen both of them leave.
What do you think his war was about, though? Don't you think he would have at least protected helped the innocents?
No, his war on 51 was the invaders on his Earth.
Right.
If they had gotten him to leave Earth 51, which I'm not 100% certain they would have been able to get him to leave.
No.
But if for some reason they were able to convince him...
Or if he went through a boom tube and he had no choice.
Right, and he had no choice. Then I think he and Red Robin would have taken off. I don't think he wouldn't have stuck with his crew.
He would have fought to get back to Earth 51.
Right. And basically, they would have been like Jason would have pointed out, hey, we got Brother Eye here. They can get us back home. Right. And, that's how I would see those two handling it.
Except that their location they would have been shooting for might have been different.
Right. Because
he's a very different Batman.
Right.
Okay. And I can see, there is a certain point to that. I would. The funny part is, it's a geeky speculation because I would love to see how that Batman and Robin dynamic would have played out in this scene versus just Red Robin.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. I could see it going with some different possibilities, but you're right. I'm trying to see him as Bruce Wayne the way I see him with protecting the innocents and all that, but I keep forgetting this is still a different Batman. Circumstances changed him. So he's not quite the Batman that we're used to. So it would have been interesting to see that play. I want so much to see more stories with that Earth 51.
And once again, it was cool. We see the one panel, we see Jason swinging, but below him we have Piper. And once again, it's another connection, tie-in. All these characters on Apocalypse, they're all actually pretty much near each other, which I thought was kind of cool. And Piper sees where he is, and he's like, "Oh great, oh great, you seeing this, James? The light at the end of the tunnel sent me to hell." And I love how he's still talking to Trickster. It's still something. It's just that cool dialogue that who Piper is. He's like, okay, well, I'm done. Let's just sit down and pull Trickster's hand out of the chain and go boom.
Do you think Piper's crazy here, or do you think it's just because he's alone, he's trying to latch onto something for comfort? Do you think he's completely gone here?
No, I don't. I don't think it's a insanity.
Okay.
I think it's honestly just.
I'm asking a genuine question.
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn on the character right now. Is he nuts? Is he?
It's not. I don't think it's an insanity.
I don't think he's gone completely over the edge either. But
it's a realization that this is it. It's my life is now done. He's like, it's an acceptance of your fate. It's kind of like it's that
he
final
wants to
moment.
Decide how he goes.
Yeah,
is that how you're taking it? Because
he
wants to commit suicide here, obviously.
He's going to pull the hand and blow up and be done with it and say that's it. I don't see him as insane. And it's funny because normally I am like one of the hugest advocates against suicide. I say I'm like, it's that old adage, where there's life, there's hope. I'm always the guy who wants to see, but with this guy, I understand it. I honestly completely see why he's doing this, because if you put yourself in his shoes, how the heck can you continue through this?
Well, he lost everything. He lost his friends and went to the Rogues, which he didn't. He was reluctantly doing that to begin with. When he went to the Rogues, look where it led him, down this path with Trickster. Now he's down this path with Trickster. Trickster's dead. He's carrying his hand around. He went through the desert, and almost died there. Got transported via boom tube to hell.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it started with the death of the Flash. That's
what I'm saying.
It's just like this whole thing of everything that has happened to this guy. You're like, how the heck can you continue? I understand, dude. Right. I'm giving you a pass on this one.
Well, yeah, I can see what you're saying. You understand why he's where he's at.
Yeah.
I'm never thinking that suicide's an option.
No, I'm not.
But I see what you're saying in the sense here that you almost want to send him a self-help group that could get him off of there and the help that he needs so he can do that. I don't know. It's interesting. Do you think you could ever reach that point in your life where you would genuinely consider that an option?
I probably could. Yeah. It's it wouldn't be just, because, I lost my job, but it would be like, you lose your job, you lose your family, you lose your friends, you lose, every possible thing that you can imagine that you ever remotely loved, and one after another, and it just breaks you down to that point where you're just like, I'm done. I tap out. That's it. I can understand.
I could see myself getting to that point where I could give up, but I don't think I could get to the point where I could kill myself.
Yeah.
I think that's just, and I'm not saying that you're, like, it's not an issue of being right or wrong on this particular thing. I'm just, it's an interesting philosophical question. When I see him like this, I'm like, could I ever reach that point where I would be in a position where I had a bomb strapped to me and I could consciously make it explode? I would have to know for a fact I was going to die. I guess that's what he's saying here. Is that what you're taking this as? He is convinced he's dead here?
Yeah,
it's over?
Yeah, it's over, Johnny. He's done. He can't, and I think it's also partially just a broken will as well. It's not just...
Even if my will broke, though, I couldn't see myself killing myself. I could see myself...
see, it's hard.
I could see myself delving into depression. I could see myself, withdrawing into myself and distancing myself from others and that type of thing. It's a very dark discussion, but it's interesting. I'm looking at this, and it is making me think on a kind of a philosophical level, like, could I ever hit this point where he's at? I don't know if I could, the way that he is. Go ahead.
Okay, here, let me give you an example. One of your students accuses you of touching them inappropriately. Your wife leaves you. Your family, your father says, "Son, I am ashamed that you are my son because I am also an educator, and you should never do that." Then you try to show up to your house. Mariah's changed the locks. You go and show up in the backyard. You see all your comic books are burning. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Okay. Oh, dude, I'm not done yet. Then so you go to me saying, "Hey, Jim, help me out." I say, "Screw you, you're a pedophile. Okay. I want nothing to do with you. You're an animal. Get out of my house." And I take a couple swacks at you with a mace. Okay. Then you're like, "Oh, God." You get an email from Gail Simone saying, "You creep, you miserable slime." Every possible thing in your life that you ever gained any enjoyment of turns on you. And every single time you look to think, okay, maybe I can go here. No. Maybe I can go here. No. You try to get a job at McDonald's. McDonald's tells you, no, we don't want you here either. There's nothing for you. There's nowhere you can go, nowhere you can be, nothing. It's an end of complete life, and just, you're like, that's it. That's the type of stuff he's through.
Knowing that I didn't do it.
Knowing you didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. In that particular... Well, that's not for speculation. I couldn't see myself killing myself, though. I would, and there's different ways of obviously approaching those type of situations. I would be more inclined to probably run away, to leave, change my name, hide somewhere, all kinds of different options.
But here's the thing.
Basically disappear.
But here's the thing. I
would never contact anybody again.
Hold on. You move to, say...
people find out who you are.
They find out hey, that's Sean Whalen. That's the guy who was the pedophile. Oh my God!
I'd leave the country. I'd leave the country.
And it's the same thing though. Trickster did. Right. Trickster left the country. He's on another world, and even there, he's still.
But then again, we're talking about he's on hell. He's on Apocalypse. Like if I traveled and I wound up in Apocalypse, where would I be then? I don't. Yeah, it's kind of. It's very interesting. It's a geeky discussion.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I could ever see myself hitting that point where I could actually kill myself.
Yeah, but. Granted, fortunately for us, we don't have to deal with Piper actually killing himself because, off camera, we see someone telling him that he's the postponed.
Very dark discussion.
Yes. Very.
A very special happy episode of Raging Bullets. Pedophiles and burning comics and macing people and wives leaving and all that stuff. Yeah, that's great. That's
had to come up with an analogy that would hit you.
Yeah, but I don't know that I could kill myself.
Yeah, and I don't know. To be honest, I think I could. I can't even honestly say that.
And that's not morally me slapping anyone in the face who's ever been in that position. I can understand how you hit rock bottom and all that. I think people react differently to rock bottom. I would be too afraid to kill myself. I'm just being perfectly honest with you. I couldn't see myself doing physical harm to myself. Now, in the case if I was on hell and I had a bomb strapped to me and I really believed I was going to die there, that might be a different situation.
Yeah, so I don't know, but okay. Well, we get off camera. Someone telling him to postpone his suicide. I'll decide when it's time for you to die. And I like who this ends up being, and we can start seeing more about the Piper storyline, who he is, and what he's about. So nice little cool segue there. This takes us right back to Granny Goodness as she's dealing with Holly, Harley, and Mary. true to form, Holly and Harley, they're using that combination of humor and fighting and violence, just a nice intermix and interwoven between the two of them. And it's funny, how Granny's like, just unleashing the Furies on her, and, Furies kill them. And it just, that funny, just, it's the banter that as I say, it's the buddy cop film between the two of them. Are you kidding? I don't know the meaning of the word fear. Harley, you don't know the meaning of most words. And while that's going on, they're fighting a really cool, nice-looking fight scene. That, it's a sharp thing of these different characters, and you see Holly and Harley using their own strengths against these superpowered Furies. And you like seeing these normal people holding in their own against superpowers. They're not going technically toe-to-toe, punch for punch, but they're using their maneuverability. They're taking advantage of a nice monkey flip one into the other, bob and weave type fighting style. It was cool moments for me.
It's real interesting during the fight when you see Mary and her reaction, like when she bites the nose of Mad Harriet. It's stuff that's clearly out of character for Mary. But I mean, it's creative, and I noticed the battle. But I guess I'm reading this so differently right now. Like, the first time through, I'm like, yay, Mary, go Mary, because then she goes, no guns. But, this part was, I'm missing my magic. Now, which magic is she talking about? The Black Adam powers or her original powers?
Or Mary Marvel powers. Right. Who is she, looking forward to, and who does she want? And I like how interwoven in this, we kind of have one of those cool, happy moments, but it's interwoven with dread, because you got Granny doing like a classic villain rant. If you've come to free the gods, you're going to fail miserably. So wait a minute, free the gods? They didn't know the gods were there. They were just following Harley, who was going after Granny. So now you have this thing like, the gods are there, can we do something about this? Wait a minute, oh wow. And then of course, as soon as I read those lines, I was thinking, I think we're going to see Mary Marvel back. And I was like, kind of like, cool. This is, looking forward to what's going on. And it's funny, you're talking about just the, Mary Marvel being a little bit different. It was, kind of a classic, Mary move. She's facing the Mad Harriet, bites the nose off, and runs like hell. I like that. I was like, okay, that was actually a pretty smart move.
And they like applaud her for her unique moves and everything. But I'm looking over here, she's hearing the voices of the gods. Why would the gods only contact Mary? Like, if the gods were there, wouldn't they contact Harley and Holly too?
The only thing I'm thinking is her connection previously to the gods. Okay. She has that mystic, supernatural connection.
But it wasn't
those
technically
two
these gods.
But it's I say it's still gods. I think it's still the mystic powers of it's kind of like once you're in the brotherhood, once you're connected with one of them, you're connected with them all. They're all on speaker dial, speed dial with each other. So it's like that same, you have that. Your body has been able to interact with them before, so you're more in tune to it. It's the psychic connection type thingy. And I like the fact that it was only Mary who could hear them, and only Mary who could know what was going on. I thought that was a nice play, and as I said, it did have me just giddy with the anticipation, because, what's going to happen when she frees the gods? Sweet,
Her story right now in general feels to me like there's puzzle pieces that aren't in place. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I feel like I've got questions now about her story, and I'm not 100% sure on anything. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I mean, I'll admit perfectly right now that a lot of, my knowledge is coming from where her story's going and what we've seen so far. But I still feel like, at this stage, with reading the current issue straight on through, her storyline has been one of those that I'm just kind of like, what is real and what is not, if that makes sense? Mm-hmm. So, I'm seeing two sides of the coin. I'm seeing Mary redeemed. Then I'm seeing things out of character. What's real, what's not? Am I seeing things out of character because I'm making them there, or are those really there? Or am I seeing, her being a better person because I want to see that, or is that really there? I don't know. It's an interesting journey with her. It's not a bad thing. The story's making me think right now, and it remains my favorite story, so I'm not knocking it. A lot of things are happening very quickly with her, and have been happening very quickly with her, straight on through to the current issue right now. So I'm not trying to, and I'm not going to go further than that because I don't want to spoil anything there. It's just it's an interesting story in in how fast-paced everything's moving with her. It seems to be a whirlwind that even she can't get a handle on. And I feel like I'm connecting with that journey. She doesn't seem to know what's going on either.
And it's funny because you're talking about with Mary, we said this earlier, how we're rereading stuff. Last night before we did the recording, I pulled up my notes, I reread through them again, just seeing what I had, just refresh my mind what I had, and I caught myself either making slight changes or just noticing stuff, how when I first read this through, I didn't see any dark side. I saw just this building redemption. It's not until the current stuff that I start noticing this stuff. So that, for me, was just a really cool moment because it adds readability, rereading the story of what is Countdown the Final Crisis one more time after you know the final ending.
And what's really happening here, and who's pulling strings, and how are they pulling those strings, are questions that throughout this that are going through my head. And it's one of the reasons why I think sometimes some people are with us and in sync in the fact that they've been thoroughly enjoying this ride all along. And it may be for very different reasons than you and I are, but I think other people have been kind of baffled that we're getting this much enjoyment out of the thing, and that's it for me. I'm with you on the rereading and getting more out of the rereads than I did on the initial surface level read-through. Mm-hmm. I am finding, though, especially as the series is wrapping up, like from 12 straight on through now, this is where I'm starting to feel like I've got less of a handle on what's really going on, and more like there's more questions coming into my head, which is probably a good thing considering we're heading into Final Crisis. We should have a lot going on that we want resolved. We should be being teased. We should be questioning. It's interesting. It's really interesting how many questions are coming out of this. I guess I'm at the point right now where issue 12, I'm like, well, we're going to have like 52 where things start coming together. And we did have this convergence here, but the convergence actually brought more questions than answers for me.
Yeah, I know.
I guess it's like anything we do here, it's kind of exploring where we're at journey-wise with this, and this is where I'm at.
Yeah, this is a thought-provoking, just the way the story is going on. The next couple issues, big time. There's a lot of stuff I was like, oh, wow. There's a lot of wow moments for me, especially these next couple. I like how this is coming to the climax. I like this adventure, this story, this ending of this story. So it's kind of cool. And I tell you, next we get into Jimmy Olsen. And I tell you, I was like, good job, Jimmy. You're going to get some backup. I like that. But then I wanted to reach in and smack the dude upside the head. Because Forager mentions how she's hungry, and Jimmy's like, "Oh, why don't you just go look under a rock and get some larvae?" Dude, what are you doing? You don't tell a lady, much less a bug lady, "Oh yeah, just go and scavenge, for some baby insects and eat the babies." Yeah, that's good. I was like, man, come on, Jimmy, you got to have a little bit more game than that, dude.
What would you suggest that he does?
Well, he's something other than. I don't know.
What's she going to eat?
I'll ask her what she wants. You don't just sit there and say,
Where exactly is he going to pick that stuff up here?
I don't know. Dude, you gotta be a little bit more considerate when you're dealing with a lady to say, "Oh, go ahead, just whatever you want to do." You gotta be
I'm going to give him the same amount of leeway you're giving Piper for his nonsense. They're in the middle of it. They're going through boom tubes. He's barely getting a handle on where they're at right now. And you want him looking for a bug McDonald's.
Exactly. Hey, if you're gonna be the Mac Daddy with the ladies, you gotta always think. You always gotta keep up on the game. You gotta offer them the BBD, the bigger, better deal.
Yeah. In fairness, you're right. If I popped through a boom tube with my wife, I wouldn't tell her to go look under a rock for some bugs.
See?
Okay, or pull something off of a tree when I don't know if that stuff is safe or not.
Right. Exactly. But
I like this because this habitat is coming straight out of the Fourth World Omnibus stuff that I was talking about, and the stuff that Kirby was doing with Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. I know I'm like a broken record with those 4 volumes. I'm on volume 4 right now and reading and enjoying that, which is going to be the last of the stuff. And it was really when the Kirby saw the writing on the wall because of it's great because it's the background stuff with Mark Evanier. He is going through the history of what the time was like. There was price changes in the comics, something very similar that we all deal with today. The comics were very costly at the time. Now their price structure, is mere change today. But it was for them. It was like I want to say it was 60% or more price increase. It was crazy. So they upped the page counts, then they lowered the page counts and dropped, the prices again. But for Kirby, who was doing this big epic. during that time, it became very hard for him to get an audience who lost a year's worth of material from him. So he started going back and like making the books more accessible to him, to the audience. It's really great reading. They're wonderful stories. They're well drawn. The first 3 volumes were outstanding. Volume 4, I'm really enjoying it. It's anybody who's interested in his history and the history of these characters, seeing the foundations of what we're, basically, of Darkseid, for example, and what you're seeing here manipulation-wise. I am so glad that we had to take a break on Seven Soldiers with how crazy we got into Countdown and everything that's going on here. I want to go back, and just for anybody that's concerned that we're not going to go back to it, I am like reinvigorated to go back to Seven Soldiers now, having seen how Kirby originally crafted that. There's some interesting parallels between how Seven Soldiers was crafted and how Kirby's omnibuses were crafted. So when we go back to that this summer, we're going to do a big journey back to Seven Soldiers this summer and gradually finish that. It's going to fit in with Final Crisis, because I know that story is going to play into Final Crisis on some level. But I think also I'm going to add something new to the discussion that I wouldn't have been able to do before had I not read what Kirby had done. So it's interesting. I can't recommend those volumes enough for anybody that's on the fence of getting them. They're, it's great and easy to find them online, cheap. So do yourself a favor and look for those volumes. It's crazy, just to save you some money on this one. I was just looking, I just told Jim, I said, I wonder if Instocktrades has them so people can get them at a discount. These are $49.90 volumes, okay? There's 4 volumes of them out right now. They go for $32.49 at Instocktrades.com. So anybody who's interested in checking them out, you can get volume 1 right now at Instocktrades, $32.49. It's a $49.90 book. So if you, and you're going to get great stories in there. If you're interested at all in seeing the foundations of the new gods and where this all came from, do yourself a favor, go to Instocktrades.com and check out the omnibuses, because I think they're just wonderful reads, and I can't, you've heard me gush about them on the show. I can't shut up about them. And I don't make any money off of them, so I'm gushing because they're great. I think that is a way, though, that shows people, like, what are you really enjoying when you can't stop talking about something.
Yeah,
and you consistently read them again, especially with the amount of material that I purchase. That's something I'm constantly drawn towards. We go Val from here.
Yeah, the issue ends with probably, I think, one of the coolest cliffhangers we've had in Countdown so far. This is going on one of my top, because each of these issues have some neat cliffhangers. This one was a cool one, because we got Val, it's trying to plan and find a way off of Apocalypse before I can assimilate everything, including him. Una kind of wants to lay low and wait it out. Maybe they can slip by unnoticed, but, Brother Eye is there. He's working overtime, and we kind of have the, Val saying, do you want Brother Eye to assimilate me with the virus I'm carrying? As a matter of fact, yes, Val, I do. And you see Una being assimilated and becoming an OMAC. I was like, sweet. What's Val going to do now? I was like, nice.
And there's an interesting piece of the puzzle here that Brother Eye is being put into place right now. If Brother Eye assimilated that gives Midge a major weapon.
Big time.
And that's where you look at the larger picture. You're like, okay, Midge and Darkseid are playing this game of chess here with these people, and Midge really wants that in play. If Brother Eye has that gives Midge a major force to deal with in all this. It's interesting to see who's going to pop back in Final Crisis from all this. Mm-hmm. In a very, very mean sense, I was glad to see this happen to Una, because I saw the writing on the wall, that one of these two is dying, and I've been saying since the beginning I want it to be Una. So when I was reading this, I'm like, yes, Val stands a chance. That's just so mean.
Okay, to be honest, I will confess, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, we know which one of them is surviving now.
I like the backup here. Tom Mandrake did a wonderful job on a Spectre series, and it's great to see his artwork on Solomon Grundy. I really, really liked it because it's very dark, very gloomy. The colors, too, from Hi-Fi. It totally fits the mood and everything we're seeing here, but takes it right up to today. And the fact that when Solomon Grundy reincarnates, there's some different personality changes and things from Solomon Grundy. We saw this in Starman, first introduced there, in James Robinson's Starman, where there was a peaceful Grundy almost, who came out of the whole thing, who was actually a friend of Starman's. Then all of a sudden, dies and is reincarnated again, and we got this evil Grundy back again. So it's an interesting, very interesting character, and I'm glad to see that we've got like this intelligent Grundy almost right now that's in play.
Yeah, and I liked how this was done. It wasn't a lot of complicated words. It was just the basic boom, boom. You know, it was just very brief, short dialogue panels. It's very fitting to Grundy.
It's Grundy's phrase. It's
right.
This is always born on a Monday, christened on a Tuesday, married on a Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on Sunday. Is this the end of Solomon Grundy? And really well done and well drawn, and it was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah. Very personalized to the character that was on there. Jim, let's take a little break for Countdown for a few minutes, and let's go to... I want to do a quick little speeding bullets about something I want to chat about. We've got some listener gifts that we were sent that I want to open up. I've been waiting to chat about these. I have a couple podcasts I want to shout out to while we're on the show, and then we'll do some listener content for a little bit.
Okay.
Jim, I just want to really quickly shout out Harvey Pekar's American Splendor, Volume 2, which is being published through Vertigo. Harvey Pekar is a Cleveland guy, local guy, and this is a good book for anybody who's curious on reading something on where comics can possibly go, and then comics can cover everything. Harvey Pekar, his stories in American Splendor are basically his own life experiences. The first story in the book that I really enjoyed opens up with the fact that he's at his house, and I guess he's got an open door policy where people are allowed to, if they call him up, he'll let them come over and chat with them and things like that. Because he said, typically when people do that, they're, congratulatory of my work, and it's just, which to me is such a strange thing, because I'm a school teacher, and being honest about myself, I have an unlisted number, and because I prefer my privacy. I love and adore my job. I love my students. I never have a problem in public if I run into my kids or families. It's just that when I'm home, that's my time to get away from work, to kind of, reinvigorate myself to go in the next day so I can be on. Because I feel it's my job at work to be 100% all the time and give that. In this case, this guy's very open to fan contact. And he runs into this bizarre situation where a film student contacts him, a high school student, and never read American Splendor, never read his work, but wants to get in touch with him because of the film. And Harvey Pekar's telling him, basically, I didn't write the film. I was briefly in the film. I was in for little vignettes in the film, but I wasn't really the main actor in the film. So I don't know what we would have to talk about. I don't really have a lot of help for you there as far as filmmaking. I've never done filmmaking. But he's like, I have an open door policy. But in his head, I love the inner dialogue because he's being brutally honest. He's like thinking to himself in his thought balloons, maybe I should rethink my open door policy. And it was very sarcastic, funny humor. He wasn't being mean, because I'm like sitting here, I'm like, anybody who's letting somebody who you don't know come over to your house and that type of thing. I'm like, that's pretty cool that he would even entertain that idea, because you don't know nowadays, is a person going to come over and kill you? I mean, we're in that kind of a society now, so it was impressive. But, the kid gets over there, and there's these funny moments where they just really have nothing to talk about. And, he had to wait 2 days for the kid to come over because of, Dad had to drop him off. And he gets over to the house, and they have nothing to talk about. So he goes inside for a little bit, and the kid's reading American Splendor. And at the end, Harvey signs the book for him because the guy asked him to. And the kid, Harvey's trying to talk to him about comics and about writing and encourage him on film. But when they get kind of on American Splendor, the kid's only talking about, I really wish I could have an HD camera. If I had an HD camera, I could really make it as a filmmaker and that type of thing. So they're having two completely independent conversations. And the end result in the conversation, the kid realized coming there was a mistake because he didn't really have anything to ask of Harvey Pekar. And he goes, maybe next time I should just send a letter. But there's this great bit where he's trying to refill his inhaler. Because he's got a breathing situation, asthma, I believe it was. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but he's at the pharmacy, and we've all run into this situation before, where for some reason you need something that fits outside the rules. In his case, he's going on vacation. His inhaler's at the end of it, but he's not quite ready for a refill. It doesn't fit under his HMO. So he's over at the counter, and the lady behind there is not letting him renew, and he's thinking in her head, ready to salute her like she's Hitler or stuff like that, and being rather snide about the whole thing. But he's holding it in. So you're seeing his inner dialogue, what he would like to say to her. So he gets a little snide with her about the fact that, he's going on vacation, he's not a drug addict and all that type of stuff. Comes back the next day and she ends up giving him the extra inhaler and he goes on his trip. But the whole time it's the typical inner dialogue that we all have when we're dealing with other people who are... It's hard to explain what's so great about this, because what's great about it is it's real world situations, but brutally honest, with a sarcastic sense of humor, and it's something we can all relate to. Like, I've never been in a position where I've had to get an inhaler before, but I've been in a position where I've had to go on a vacation, and I've needed a refill of a prescription prior to that, and they wouldn't refill it because it wasn't quite yet the time to refill the prescription. And they're all situations that on some level you can relate to. You've been there on some level before. I like it because it was all Cleveland-based, so a lot of the stuff that was going on in there, I know the places he was mentioning. I found a connection there. Each vignette has a different artist, and there's 5 or 6 different stories in the first issue alone. It's self-contained. And he does this bit where he talks about comic reviewers, or actually book reviewers in general, who don't get comics and don't understand that comics aren't pigeonholed to just one genre. Comics can cover everything, and comics should cover everything. And I loved that bit. As a fan of comics, I ate that up. Where he was really mad at a criticism of one of his works, not because they didn't like the work, but he was more mad that they were saying that comics have to stay within. They can't get too wordy. They can't get too. They can't get too intellectual. They can't get too. He said too lectury. He said, and he said the whole purpose of this particular work that he was reviewing is it was a historical piece. And my point was, for people who are interested in this type of thing, they would want to learn something from it. So it's a great book. It's really interesting. If you don't like all the vignettes in it, they're short vignettes, so you can easily, for one vignette that you don't like, you might find 3 that apply to you. I recommend it for people who are looking for something a little bit different, something a little bit more real world, and this is very real world. It's very reality-based. There are a man's musings about life in general. It's a lot of satire about the things that we all kind of grunt and groan and laugh about, if that makes sense. So there is something there for people looking for that. I was really surprised by it. I have an anthology of American Splendor that my wife's mom got for me and that had signed by Harvey Pekar. So I read through that and I enjoyed it a great deal. So I was excited when Vertigo started doing Volume 2. This is the first issue. It just came out. So I don't want to spoil anything more in the book. I just kind of wanted to give a little overview on what it's all about and why I think people should read it. So hopefully I gave you that there. But I wasn't going to do a speeding bullets on this one, just because we did that lengthy segment last time, and I know you and I want to get through some more countdown and get to some listener rants. But it was something that I was passionate about that I read this week, that I thoroughly enjoyed, that I thought I wanted to throw on here because we don't always get to talk a lot about Vertigo. Jim, besides that, I have a couple podcasts I want to shout out really, really quick that are just starting up. They're friends of the show, and I wanted to make sure that I at least get them on there. I wanted to do it at the beginning, but because we had such a long segment introducing our new sponsors, talking about the fact that we're going weekly again, and some of the other things, New York Comic Con and all that, I wanted to move it to this point in the show. Gotham Knights is a Batman family podcast that's starting up, and it's going to cover books in the Batman family universe like Batman, Detective, Nightwing, Catwoman, Robin, any miniseries related there. Episode 1, he says, is kind of short, but he reviewed Detective Comics 843 and Nightwing 143. If you go to freewebs.com, Gotham Knights, you can go there and check out the first episode. And that's Bill, who is he's been a big supporter of our show, so I want to make sure to give his podcast a shout out. Our friend Ziggo, who we met at the New York Comic Con, is starting up a podcast called the Comic Tube Podcast, which is comictubepodcast.blogspot.com. And it's a podcast that covers various movies, TV shows, video games, based on and related to comic books, fantasy, and science fiction. So, once again, podcasting's an open field, so give these guys a shot and check them out. And that's great. And I'm loving the fact that we're back weekly again. I was trying to figure out lately. I haven't been feeling myself with the show. It's like I've been wanting to do that. So this episode's probably going to feel a little different to people than our usual ones. This is a very transition episode for Jim and myself. Between this recording and where we're going from here on out, Jim and I have a lot of planning to do over the next week to get us back into our weekly schedule, to get us ready for New York. We have our big 2-year anniversary show, which is really kind of our kickoff of going back to weekly and getting Raging Bullets back to where we want it. So we wanted to get this transition episode out there for you guys, so we have our first kickoff here. We got a new sponsor now, all kinds of new things happening. So you're going to be seeing, like I said, next week is the start of Raging Bullets 2.0. New numbering, new reinvigoration of the show. I'm excited about that. So that's kind of where we're at. Jim, we've got some packages that I really want to open up. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. This is really interesting. This first one here, it's from Steve Mueller. And he just said, enjoy the store. Enjoy the store. It says, Sean and Jim, now that I'm not tongue-tied anymore, I enjoy the show. I listen while at work, and here's some stuff. Nuff said, oops, wrong company. Frecking swear, oops, wrong show. That's from Steve Mueller. And frecking swear, for those of you who don't know, is from our good friends Comic Geek Speak. That's something from there. But these are 3-dimensional trading cards. So it's Blue Beetle, for example. There's a ton of them here. Power Shazam, things like that. On the back, they have the typical Oracle database from them. I have never seen these before.
Oh,
so
sweet.
they're trading cards. If you take a look at them, and they're from Fleer Skybox, but they were 3-dimensional. So they're they look like little tiny boxes, but they're plastic, hard plastic. And what we can do is, Jim, you and I can take favorite ones and trade them.
Yeah, we'll figure out.
But they're all kinds of neat ones. The Hawkman one you can't have.
Oh, really? I wonder why.
It's right there right now.
It's already
Beautiful Hawkman one.
It's already on the desk next to the Hawkman bust and everything.
Yeah,
so it ain't.
It's not.
If there's a
anywhere.
Robin in there, it's mine.
Yeah, well, there are
okay.
Robins in here, so I'm willing to make the same concession.
Okay.
He also sent us some magnets, which are very cool. We've got Superman, Batman, Batgirl, and the whole entire Justice League.
Oh, sweet.
If you don't mind, I would like the Batman and the Batgirl.
Okay.
If you'd like the deal, if you desperately want one of those, I will.
No.
I'll be fair. You can have the Superman and the Justice League, just because I really like the artwork on these. So this is very, very cool. It's actually the Batgirls from Legends of the DC Universe number 10 with the art by Kevin Nolan, and the Batman Chronicles one is art by Hugh Fleming. They all look great. I wouldn't really.
The Superman is the Alex Ross Superman, so I'm very happy with that because it's Soup opening up his shirt. You see the red S, And
the Justice League one is
It's the Adventures in DCU, art by John Delaney and Ron Boyd.
So thank you very much.
Yes,
for
thank
that.
you.
I'm always amazed when people will send us donations or gifts or things like that, because we really do this for free. So, it's not like anytime we do segments like this, it's more of a chance to just say thank you and share with you how we geek out at this kind of stuff, because it's really, really nice that you do that. And you've got one right there.
Yeah, and we got one. It's from Green Cap from the forums. Hiya, Sean and Jim. Please enjoy these copies of the fan edit I did a couple years back on the film Batman and Robin. I cut the running time to a trim 63 minutes and tried to clear out as much of the horrible stuff from it as I possibly could. Hence the name Batman and Robin De-assified. This edit was done on a challenge from a friend who wanted me to see if anywhere within the film was anything worth watching. It actually kind of worked. Feel free to discuss me and contact me on the forums if you have any thoughts on it. Thank you again, Green Cap. Appreciate it.
But we're probably going to have to wait to get to you on it until after New York, because we have got so much going on over the next week and a half. And actually, we're going to still try to get to the Pittsburgh Comic-Con. That's the weekend after New York. The only reason why we haven't formally announced that is because we got to get through the next week and a half first. So it's going to be a very last-minute thing, and we will announce on the show and on the forum and the website especially if we're going to be able to go to Pittsburgh. Our current plan, if we go to Pittsburgh, is going to be that Saturday night. That we're going to hit that, and we'll hit Saturday, and then hopefully our good friend who has this restaurant out there. I would really like to do that because the restaurant offer is so cool.
Yeah.
That I think we're going to try to do that. So just some thoughts there. But let's get to a few listener rants before we jump back into Countdown, okay? Actually, Jim, let's start with this email first, because we've got one here that I was expecting because you had mentioned it. Hey, Norge and Jim. With me talking about the show all the time and Uncle Jim pushing comics onto Ben, the boys have a few questions for you. Their questions are based on Justice League cartoon from the 70s. Ben's question, what is Wonder Woman's secret identity? Well, the Justice League cartoon from the 70s, I don't remember on the Super... I guess we're talking about the Super Friends, because that was the only Justice League cartoon. Did she have Diana Prince on that show? I want to say I remember some episodes where they had secret identities. Yeah, because they would travel back through time, didn't they? And they did some stuff with the secret. It wasn't her secret identity. I don't think was really, because they were usually always the super friends on those episodes. But I thought there was one at least where they did something with the identities. So I'm wrong. I think it was still Diana Prince.
Yeah, and that's my guess. That's what I would say. Diana Prince still.
Okay. Or no, you know what they did on that episode? They went back through time and Cheetah became Wonder Woman. So it was Princess Diana from Themyscira. I don't think they did Diana Prince on that show. I don't think so. Remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where the
villains took
Legion
away
of Doom
their...
went back through time and they did that. That's the episode I'm thinking of. I don't remember Diana Prince appearing on that cartoon. Actually, if any of our listeners remember the old 70s Super Friends cartoon, was there ever an episode where Wonder Woman appeared as Diana Prince? That would be the secret identity if there was one. But I don't remember that show being heavily based on their secret identities. It was always Zan and Jaina or Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog at the Trouble Alert, and the Super Friends would just show up.
But to give Ben a more clear answer, Diana Prince is Wonder Woman's secret identity.
Yes. But it says their questions are based on the Justice.
Well, that's his only exposure now to it.
So they're asking what is real. Did she have that on the show?
Yeah, it's more of a what is Wonder Woman's secret identity?
Detailed an answer for the fact that they're just looking for Diana Prince.
Yes. Remember, okay, give a little background to everybody. This is a very good friend of ours. I was best man at his wedding. Joe, these are his kids, and
I was in his wedding too.
You were in his wedding too. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So his boy, I'm getting his boys into comics now, and I've actually just recently Ben just had his first communion, and for his first communion I gave him the issues of Tiny Titans #1 and Super Friends #1. I figure first communion, first issues, it makes sense. So we're getting the boys into comics, and we're starting off right. We're giving them DC, not the Marvel stuff. So
I've got a really good answer for this next question.
Oh, okay.
Dan's question, is Batman the second leader of the Justice League? If you ask Batman.
Well,
even on the cartoon, though, it was kind of they just worked together. There wasn't really, I guess Superman was the leader.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with...
Batman was always the strategist.
Ben and Dan both think, they're like, Superman's the leader, right? They immediately figured Superman had to be the leader, so they figured Batman's the number 2 guy, so that's...
I would say that's fair, though.
And I would say that's very fair.
People naturally rally behind Superman. So, yeah, they're right. Superman would be the main leader, and Batman would be the second leader. I would go for that. At least in the Super Friends cartoons.
Yes.
Yeah. Also... this is for all the good people that email in and have negative comments towards Jim and Sean and the way they laugh and seem to have fun on the show. Let me tell you that it is not an act. This is how these two are in everyday life and every day in general. We've known each other for more than 20 years, and what you hear is what you get. No acting, just their thoughts, ideas, and opinions. To me, their show is just a portion of their normal life. The way the show sounds is the same as when we go out to dinner with their wives or just hanging around talking about them. So in conclusion, just sit back and listen and enjoy the show, Joe. I think most people do, though.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him saying that, though, because it's kind of nice to have somebody who really knows us just kind of... It's actually, you know what, I like him being able to say that because he knows us personally so well. Since high school, he's known me, known you for longer. For him to be able to say that we're just being ourselves and all that, I'm glad that we come across that way to somebody who knows us on that level. So I feel more comfortable saying now that this is exactly who we are. He's right. Here's
the interesting thing. One of the interesting things with Joe. Joe doesn't read comics. He doesn't collect comics, but he's listened to every one of our episodes. While he's at work, it's one of those things. He turns it on and it gets him through his day, and he listens to it from downloads it from to his iPod or and whatnot. But he isn't a comic book reader, but he still listens to our show and he enjoys it just because it's he's sitting there and we're just all hanging out and goofing around and being us. So it's kind of neat. When he first started telling me that he was listening to the show, I'm like, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, especially considering the fact he doesn't read comics. This one's from Brett Roberts. Way to go, Jim. Nice to hear that you started Preacher. Just wait, the second book is the one that really starts taking off. The second and last books were my favorite. Yes, the last, which means you won't be disappointed with the end, hopefully. And that's from Brett. I will agree with him and back him up 100%. It is one of those books that ends on a crescendo. It's one of those series. So it's really one of those, just expect that you're buying 9 volumes.
Oh, I know I am.
Yeah.
I've already...
It is. It's one of those, like, I mean, I feel very comfortable with anybody saying, if you liked Volume 1 and 2 of Preacher, you might as well just go buy the rest if you can get them at a discount. And go to Instocktrades. Instocktrades has them
Yes.
at, a major discount, so go ahead and grab them at, why pay... when you start looking at if you're paying 35% off for 9 volumes, you're getting some books free.
Yeah. And I've already started.
Good.
I've already started looking there, and I've already started getting them from there.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's from Mike Sims. I'll just do it real quick. I can't remember if I ever sent you the second pick. I did it a while back when you guys were debating the Trickster's death, so he sent another one of you as the second shooter. But then, Jim, you've got to see this one because it's very disturbing. We were joking last episode about the new comic Two Ugly Men with Boobs. Mike Sims made that comic. He took a Wildstorm cover, and it's I guess it's a Gen 13 cover that he altered because it's looks like number 9 from August '07, Simone Barbarian Geraci, but Two Ugly Men with Boobs. It's you and me transposed on 2 females.
Oh my God, this is awesome.
This is further proof that we really would be ugly women. So that'll be up on actually when you hear this, that will be up on basically on the website under Where's What Not Now.
Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm dang sexy in a woman's outfit. Not slutty sexy, but sexy. That's me.
Jim, I can officially say you're not my kind of woman. We got a quick email here from a listener and friend of the show, David Wallace. I don't know if you remember David from a long time back. David's actually the one who started Top Bullets for us. And David had basically just let us know, it's been a long time, how are things with you? Just wanted to drop you a line and say hello. His mom is doing well again, and I don't know if you remember, that was part of the reason why he had to step away from Top Bullets. He sent us an audio comment, and he needed to take a step back because of that going on. But he just said he's got some books for 3 to 4 months to read. And that's actually, the fun part is, with that 3 to 4 months of reading, he's going to be reading a lot of titles where you're going to be getting, 3 to 4 issues of that book and really enjoying and delving into that. That's actually a fun way to get caught up. So, David, we are thrilled to hear that your mom is doing well and glad to have you back listening to the podcast again, and welcome back, my friend. This is from listener Stephen King. As I was listening to you guys talk about Midge Monarch at the wind down of Earth 51's battle, knowing what is coming with Midge and the upcoming issues, as Jim was talking about Napoleon going against Russia in the winter, this visual came into my mind. Imagine Midge and Darkseid standing over a chessboard. Midge makes one last desperate move and declares to Darkseid, "Never go up against the Sicilian with death is on the line." Blap. Sometimes you guys just crack me up. And and as many people have said, Jim, eat more fiber. And that's from listener and friend of the show, Stephen King. And how are you health-wise? You want to share with everyone how you're
health-wise, well, I don't want to be too disgusting because I know people are probably maybe listening to this while they're eating or dinner or little children present, but things are moving through nicely. Take it as you will. Some of the initial diagnosis came back. They're not sure if that's what's going on. I had something with, with my colon. And at first they were thinking diverticulitis, and then they're thinking maybe this, and I had a couple more tests recently done that I'll find out the results when we get back from New York. So things are good. Things are going well. I'm not sitting there doubled over in pain, so that's always a plus. But it's still kind of up in the air.
More energetic than you have the past couple times we recorded too.
I do feel healthier. I do feel, I think things are, internally a little bit better for me than they were before. So yeah, I'm much better. I'm still kicking. I'm still the whatnot, and you name it.
And the Duke of you know. All right, this one's from Bookbag, actually. Hey, Sean and Jim. I heard you were thinking about doing an episode featuring the Legion covering times from pre-crisis in the 80s through to the current date, or should I say the future. Anyway, it got me thinking. You are always asking about voice comments or reviews of books, and to be honest, I'm not a great writer, you can tell from my forum posts, and I don't want to embarrass myself in front of Jim or you as a school teacher. So I thought I'd offer my services in a different way. I have an extensive collection and knowledge of DC Comics from way back to the beginning or the Silver Age. I've got Green Lantern 2 and Just JLA number 2 from the early 60s, for example. So if you're ever looking for any comic information, either what happened in an issue, what happened to a character, a particular storyline, just email me and I'll do my best to let you know what happened and then leave it up to you guys to do the ranting and ragging. Also, if any listeners have questions, I'd be willing to do my best to help. Keep up the good work, guys, and this is from Tony. First of all, never feel embarrassed about doing voice comments or reviews of books or anything for the show. Jim and I, it comes from practice. And I mean, I flub all the time. You're going to hear me on this episode. I've flubbed multiple times. It just comes with practice. I'd like to think we get better as time goes on with some of those things. There's always room for improvement in what we do. But to me, one of the strengths of this show is the interaction. It's one of the reasons why I want to get back weekly. I'm realizing with the fact that we've cut down one episode and we've done the longer shows, the problem is we haven't had a lot of time to do this kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons why I said this is a transition episode. It's kind of a chance for us to reconnect with you guys on these type of things and to get ourselves back in gear for a weekly episode. So like I said, this one's going to be a little different than our usual shows because of the fact that we want to get back to that. As far as helping out in any way, whatever way you're comfortable. If you hear us, you'll hear us shout out multiple times on the show where we're confused about something, we're not really sure on something. Even with how I've been reading comics since I was a little kid. But, I don't know everything. I've jumped between certain titles and different companies and, read a whole bunch of books, but I don't claim to be an expert on everything comics. So I would give this to any listener, including yourself. If you find that there's something where you're like, geez, guys, I could fill in some gaps in the information, shoot me an email. And even if you don't want to want me to read it word for word the way you do it, just say, hey, Sean, or a forum, private message. Hey, you were talking about this on the show. Here's what was really going on there, and I can add that into the episode. We always appreciate that. That's something where it really adds to the discussion. You guys are a major part of what we do here, so always feel comfortable adding that in there and not worrying about how you sound. Because if we worried about how we sounded, we would have had this over a long time ago.
Yeah.
This is from Simon McDonald, who's playing a little catch-up with our show, which is always great to hear people who are going back and listening to some of our episodes and getting caught up. He just says that he's behind a bit on the podcast because I switched to a new job. I wanted to pop in and give a quick comment on episodes 59 and 58 to give Eli big kudos on his coverage of Astro City. His love of the source material really comes through. I myself just started reading Astro City with the Confession and Family Albums trades, which I got from my local library, and that's from Simon McDonald. So thanks. Actually, I appreciate the fact that you came in on the audio comment, too, because I thought Eli did an excellent job as well. That's why I love audio comments, because sometimes you guys can go in a direction that Jim and I just have not had a chance to get to. So thank you very much for those comments, Simon. Did you?
I just got to reiterate, I agree. That was kind of neat. That was a nice, audio comment. That was, it's that whole where it's not just us two talking; it's all of us getting together, and it's the whole interaction that really. That's one of the really fun parts about doing this is that we have these open dialogues, we have discussions, we have other people throwing in comments, their 2 cents and whatnot. I like that.
This is from Eli, and it says, Sean and Jim, I finally broke down and joined the forum and left a comment about JLA, The New Frontier, and then the forum broke down. I hope it wasn't anything I said. I enjoyed the last 2 shows, 60 and 61, immensely, and thanks for all the hard work. Several times during your show you mentioned using local libraries to access comics, and I've done so a lot recently, and it saves me a lot of money, and I have read a lot of great books. Here's what I've gotten out of my branch. The Pride of Baghdad from Vertigo, which is brilliant. Batman Under the Hood Volume 1, best scene was with Green Arrow. I don't understand the hostility, Ollie. You must have done something to me. And that was a different era, because Ollie and Batman were butting heads back in that time. All-Star Archives Volume 11, interesting history lesson. Batman Hush Volumes 1 and 2, and Volume 2 kicked butt. 52 Volume 1, my dilemma is that they don't have the other volumes. And interlibrary loan is sometimes, if your local library doesn't have that, you might want to shoot for interlibrary loan to check and see if you can pick up those books. I know I've done that through Mentor a lot of times, where I've been searching for some books. Orbiter from Vertigo, which he said is fascinating. Just Imagine Stan Lee creating the DC Universe, which he said was awful. He didn't really like it. Hey, Arkham Asylum, he said he couldn't get into it. Read it twice, too. And that's the Grant Morrison series.
Yeah,
Did you ever read that one?
Yeah, I read that. I liked it.
Okay. It's just proof that,
it's different tastes for different folks. It's, you like what you like. So, yeah.
I was kind of surprised when he said that, but that's, it's something for everybody out there. New Frontier Volume 1, excellent, though, again, they only had Volume 1. And we'll be talking about New Frontier next week. Yeah, which I'm really excited to talk about that, to talk about the comic especially, which we haven't had a chance to. Identity Crisis, I own the floppies, but I wanted to see if there was any extra content, and there was. Aerosmith by Busiek, same thing, own the floppies, but this time there was actually less content. Oh, I wonder if that means, I guess they didn't include all the things from the floppies then.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's, yeah. Villains United didn't do much for me. Oh, ooh. That was what launched right into Secret Six.
Yeah.
Ooh, I completely disagree with that. Villains United, I think, was the best out of the batch of those Infinite Crisis offshoot series, The Road to Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, that was definitely the one. That was definitely the one I was like, ooh, I like this. I want more of this.
Yeah. You know what? I would say this: if you didn't like Villains United, don't let that turn you off from reading the Secret Six mini.
Yeah.
Because I think really that one really delved into those characters in a different way. So check that out. See if your library actually has that Secret Six one and check that out. He said from non-DC titles, he got Bone out from Boneville, which he liked it a lot and already reserved the next volume. The Road to Civil War, The Illuminati, which is just great. The Hellboy animated DVD, Blood and Iron, which he said was very, very good. Actually, I agree with all those things. I read The Illuminati as well, and I really enjoyed the whole that whole premise. Because it went through eras that I read, the New Avengers Illuminati series, that I read growing up, but to see this from the perspective of the Illuminati and how they were manipulating things in the Marvel Universe was pretty cool. Bone out for Boneville. You hear me talk about Bone so much. I own the black and white single issues of Bone. I own the black and white one-volume edition of Bone, and I'm going through and buying the Scholastic color editions of Bone. I can't get enough Bone. I actually own the Telltale games, too. They made games based on Jeff Smith's Bone. Unfortunately, they've only done the first 2 volumes. I'm hoping they do the rest, but the second game is The Great Cow Race, which I love. I noticed that there is a lot more on order, like all 4 volumes of the Fourth World Omnibus, Jack of Fables, several Minx titles, and a lot more. Just by doing this, I saved myself some money, and more importantly, read stuff I might not have otherwise read. Keep pushing the libraries. One more end. I picked up on your recommendation at 40% off. Welcome to Tranquility Volume 1 and All New Adam Volume 1. I got Welcome to Tranquility after the interview you had with Gail Simone. It sounded a bit like Astro City's take on superheroes, so I couldn't pass it up. I wasn't disappointed. It was very different than Astro City, and it was a little slow for me at the outset, but soon picked up, and by the end I was really enjoying it. I haven't gotten to All New Adam yet, hope to soon. I also picked up at the same sale JLA Crisis of Conscience. Identity Crisis may be my favorite miniseries in the last 5 years, and I was in tears when Batman cradled Robin at the murder scene of Tim's father when the panel read, Orphans. It was devastating. I had vowed to jump off when the story ended and not get sucked into it any further, and I didn't. So I missed the follow-up Conscience story, and I am so glad I got it. It was really, really a great read and a wonderful epilogue to to Identity Crisis. Sorry for the long rant, but the forum broke down, and that's Eli. Don't ever apologize for sending us an email. I try to flip between doing forum rants and emails. I can't guarantee we're ever going to get every single comment you guys send us on the show. So feel free to keep sending us emails and putting in forum rants and all that. We're going to keep trying to get as much of your content on the show as possible, because it gives us a chance to have discussions like this. One of the reasons why I think it's really important to look to your local library for comics is that does help the comic industry. And if you're on a budget and you're like, I can't purchase these titles, if you're telling your library that you want more, the library's going to buy more. The more the library buys, the more that helps the comic industry too.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps. So if you're on a budget and you're like, I can't buy these books, don't feel like you have to be left out of comics. Get the library buying some of these things, too. That's going to help the industry. Numbers are numbers. And, I mean, there's no two ways about it. So, you know, it's I want to see more of this stuff in libraries. It's literature. It belongs there, and it's great to see that you're doing that. Thank you for the honest comments on some of the books that you're on there, and it's always nice to get listener comments on that one. That was a nice, lengthy one. This is from Martin Gray, and this will be our last one for right now. This is on Emperor Joker. I really enjoyed Brent's comments on the Emperor Joker trade paperback, and just have one thing to say. Don't do it, Jim. Do not buy this book. Grade B? How about a very low F? Really, that storyline was the worst in a very bad period for the Superman books, and was the point at which I dropped them for a while. I think I managed about 4 issues in it before being able to take no more. Now, I like a good magical alternative world story as much as the next guy raised on Mort Weisinger's Superman family of books. But this, there were no rules, no particular reason for many of the contortions of personality and situations. For me, a good reality-twisting tale imposes internal rules, and the change is consistent with them. The Age of Apocalypse, for example, wasn't my favorite X-Men event ever, but we were told what had changed, and the character differences in the scenarios could logically be traced back to the same point. But this, Marvin the Manhunter, Lois the head of LexCorp, and the many deaths of Batman, Aquaman as a fish, it was just one stupid thing after another, and more a JLA or Batman tale than a Superman story. I think I left the book after it was revealed that the Joker was behind everything. Why? The Joker is Batman's greatest foe, and while it's okay for Superman to battle him on occasion, he doesn't deserve a place in the Superman books for 9 issues. And the sheer evil of the Joker has no place in the Superman story. Maybe I could have been drawn in, the story been more engaging, but it was just page after page of stupidity and nastiness. I left Superman Batman for the same reason. Loeb's writing technique seems to be to throw a series of cool fanboy moments together with no idea how to tie them up satisfactorily. Pity poor Joe Kelly having to sort out the Emperor Joker mess. And then Loeb goes back to it to conclude a frankly rubbish Superman-Batman sequence. Once more, he writes any old tosh and explains it as magic or red kryptonite. I really feel the guy is taking the piss, and I'm not buying any more of his works. Ultimates 3 #1 was my last. And I really don't like Ed McGuinness' Superman art. I hate it almost as much as I hate Scott McDaniel's stuff or Chris Boccello's current style, both of which I find almost impossible to follow. Superman is the Michelin Man, Lois is a sex doll, no thank you. Finally, I hear the Spectre has to help Superman save the day. 9 issues and Superman could sort things out by himself? Tommy rot. Cheers, Mart. Boy, one of the things I enjoyed so much about the story, first of all, it's kind of hard to compare to Age of Apocalypse because the premise on how it started is a little bit different, but I get his point. The difference with rules, though, I think because it is the Joker, would account for the silliness and nastiness. So that, to me, is what everything he's saying he didn't like. I'm like, well, no, that worked because it was the Joker, and that's who the character is.
And because it was the Joker where who he got his power, who he got the powers from, and all that stuff, it made sense.
Here's my question. How do you feel about people who are blatantly, quote-unquote, this person's villain or that person's villain appearing in a lengthier story with another character? To me, that my personal opinion is that to me shows a shared universe, and that would happen. Like Batman versus Lex Luthor, to me, it's more cerebral and intriguing when those two battle head-to-head. I enjoy that. What are your takes? Do you prefer when they stick to their own rogues gallery? Do you like the intermingling of rogues? How does things work for you?
I love intermingle of the villains and heroes and all that. As you said, it's a shared universe, and it would make sense that, if Joker ever got that type of just omnipotent type power, that he would go up against Superman, not Batman. Mm-hmm. And just like if Lex Luthor were to make a play on Gotham, he would go up against Batman, not Superman.
Let me say that again, though. Taking it to this story, when he was talking more of it being a JLA story, if Joker got that kind of omnipotent power, he would be taking on everything and can't be just the Joker. So that would be more of a JLA feel story. You would need the Spectre involved because it's magic-based, which Superman has a weakness to magic. To me, it was what if Mitch's Pitlick's powers gave to the Joker? How would that be handled, and what would that be like? I really enjoyed it a great deal. Now, again, different strokes for different folks. That's not his cup of tea. I like it. Go ahead.
Now, I do own the Emperor Joker, by the way. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay.
Because it was one of the more recent shipments, and then I have a bunch of other stuff that happened to me, so I didn't have a chance to read it. But I do own it, so after I read it, I will give a little bit more in-depth comment whether I liked it or not.
See, and it's actually a very good comment because he explains in detail what he doesn't care for, and it gives me a lot to work off of here. He doesn't like Loeb's writing. I do. So, that's where there's kind of a difference there. The artwork that he doesn't like, I like Ed McGuinness, I love Scott McDaniel, and I love Chris Boccello. So, his stuff on Death was gorgeous. I really love Death, High Cost of Living, and Death, Time of Her Life was just a great series. But I also liked Chris Boccello's work on Generation X, the X-Men title. Mm-hmm. It's just, he's an artist that I particularly enjoy. Art is another tricky situation because, again, different people aren't going to like different things. I'm actually glad that I got a chance to read his email because one of the things that I said on a previous podcast got misinterpreted. I've said before that kind of balance off the negativity with good comments, and it was taken as that I don't want any negative comments on the show. And it's kind of I want to avoid the "it sucks" comments, if that makes sense. I don't mind something like this, what Martin did. He wrote a nice, lengthy, intelligent commentary on why he didn't particularly care for a book. We can spin off of that, and we just had a great discussion as far as why we were on a different side of the fence as far as, you haven't read Emperor Joker, I have, though. But as far as just talking about, in general, what we like in storytelling off of that. That leads to an interesting discussion point. I like that. It's more than it sucks. But what I was saying is, and he does this. Martin is one of those that he'll follow that up with something he's thoroughly enjoying as well. That's what I'm going for. If you've got like a negative rant, share some of the things you're enjoying. My worry about people, and this led to my comment that try to strive for that perfect pull list. I see a lot of people who only publish negative comments across the net. And I'm not just talking about our phone, I'm talking across the net. And I'm kind of like wondering, where do I believe you're a comic fan? And if you're really having that horrible of an experience, you need to change something. It was kind of taken in the forums, like I was saying, you only pull good books, and you can't do that right off the bat. You want to strive for that pull list. And my example would be, if you've got 5 titles right now, let's say your first title is Batman. You've been a Batman fan your whole life. You're collecting Batman, and you're going to keep collecting Batman because you've got a full run. You're going to collect it no matter what happens in that series. Okay, that's a lock title. You're not going to change that. Even if you don't like what the writing team's doing or anything, you're going to lock that title in. All right? And this could be applied to any type of pull list you've got. The next 2 titles are books that you're picking up right now and you're thoroughly enjoying. Let's use the example of like a Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Wonder Woman. Just 2 books that I'm digging right now, big time. All right? You're picking those up right now because all of a sudden you jumped on board when Green Arrow, Black Canary launched. You wanted to check out the Gail Simone run on Wonder Woman. They're both titles that you're thoroughly enjoying right now because you're enjoying the content being presented. You got 3 titles that are locked up right now. Last 2 titles are titles you're not enjoying. Let's go ahead and use Martin's Emperor Joker example, for example. All right? Let's just say he was reading the Superman books at this point in time. It's a book he's thoroughly not enjoying. There's 2 Superman books in there that he's just not digging at the moment. Okay? For him, that's his preference. Those 2 books are playbooks now. You can use those books to take risks, try new titles, strive to fill those with books that you're enjoying. There comes a point where we get that collector's mentality, I think, a lot of times, and you end up for 8, 9 issues hating comics because you're picking up 2 books that are making you miserable. My question is, why? We just had this commentary. I was loving Emperor Joker. I'm going to keep picking it up. And people who also enjoyed that storyline would do the same thing. A guy like Martin on that, and I'm just using him as an example, so please, this isn't in any way, shape, or form a negative on Martin. I'm just using this purely as example purposes. I don't want this to be a backlash. People are like, boy, you really were hard on Martin. I'm not trying to be, so Martin, please take it that way. I'm just using this for example purposes. But they've got 2 titles to play with right now. Check out your Vertigo. Check out your other DC Universe books. There's so many great books. We ran it about Simon Dark, which I think is an excellent read right now in DC. That's a great chance to use that to try out that book. Blue Beetle. People can't say enough about Blue Beetle. All New Adam. Things like that. Those type of books. New characters. Check them out. There's a lot coming out in the universe that's going to be coming out this summer. Try those things out. Save some room for some minis with those 2. And I'm just using this to speaking to people maybe who have a 5-book pull list. You can apply this to any number of books you're pulling, though. Your books that you're not really enjoying right now should be your playbooks. Use them to kind of jump around and try some new titles and get that perfect pull list. When you walk into a comic shop with the amount of product that's on there, I don't get so many angry people out there. That all they seem to be able to do is produce negative. There's a difference between that and critical conversation. This was critical conversation. I like what Martin did here. I'm glad we got to talk about this. It led to a good point, counterpoint. I'm not against that. And if I came off as that way, I'm being misinterpreted. And my comments weren't that you only pick up books that you enjoy. You're going to have to take some risks to do that. And, my tastes are very diverse. That doesn't mean that yours have to be, or that I'm right, you're wrong, or anything like that. That's always going to be a personal decision. And I'm trying to hopefully get people to strive to give themselves that list, though, that makes them go, hell yeah, every week. And that's my point there. So that's kind of a good point. Actually, there's one more little email I want to hit on, so I lied. This one's from Sebastian, and he says, hello, for the first time, Sean and Jim. I'm Sebastian from Montreal, Quebec. Lately, I've been reading a lot of DC Comics, from the weekly issues of 52 and now Countdown to Final Crisis. The 52 story was outstanding and made me buy more trades. I could not get enough. I bought trades with stories going back to the team-ups, the Crisis on Multiple Earths, and every Crisis trade that follows. Before 52, I've never read stories that didn't have the big 3. The weekly stories opened my eyes to the second-tier characters, to which I probably wouldn't have picked up. Now with Countdown to Final Crisis, I can't wait to see and read what follows. Things are really going to change in the DC Universe. Your show is exactly what I was looking for. I like that it's for fans by fans, which is the take of the podcast. I also love the fact that you guys have spoilers. I welcome them. To me, spoilers are always news and updates of what's going on what I'm not reading for budget reasons. I shared my discovery of your show to my friends, and hopefully they will tune in every week to listen to you guys. Thanks again for the news and updates, and keep up the good work. Yeah, I think our goal with the show is hopefully to point people on a budget to the books they want to be reading. and give them a starting point to, like if you can't go back and read 20 issues of a title, we can kind of bring you up to date, like, hey, this is where this book is currently, and you can jump on the next issue. And that's our goal here. It's not, so much to be the end-all, be-all. Obviously, our delivery on there is not going to be the same thing as actually picking up and viewing the comic and experiencing for yourself. But it's great that you're able to jump on and disseminate what titles are right for you from what we're doing, and I appreciate that commentary because that's exactly what we're striving to do here. I love the fact that he, as a new reader, because I don't get to experience that. You got to do it with 52, but you're well beyond that.
Yeah.
Is enjoying 52 and well, actually, you were when you were doing 52. You were a new reader.
I was a brand new reader for 52.
So you're actually this guy's more in sync with you. You're probably you guys are very locked on where you're at with it. And it's great. I'm glad that people are checking out second and third tier characters that actually need that. We will actually stop back to I think some of the emails on this episode after we do a little bit more countdown because we've got a audio comment that I definitely want to get to on All Star Batman and Robin. So let's go ahead and, Jim, let's go back to some countdown.
Our next issue will be Countdown to Final Crisis, number 10. The writer is Paul Dini with Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Story consultant, Keith Giffen. Art by Scott Collins. Colors by Tom Chu. Letterer, Ken Lopez. Cover by Stephen Raw, R-O-U-X, with Karen, B-O-C-C-A-N-F-U-S-O. Assistant editor, Elizabeth Garland, and editor, Mike Carlin. Once again, another cool cover. We're showing Holly, Harley, and Mary. They're attacking Granny. And something I noticed about that cover the second time around. Mary is not in her slave garb, nor is she in any type of Mary Marvel outfit. She's kind of like a dressed up sort of Amazonian. Now, there's been issues in the past, and I've had issues in the past where covers reveal, spoilers or secrets that go on in the issue, and I've been upset with it. I'm glad this cover did not reveal some spoilers that's about to happen in this issue, even though the reveal comes very early in the issue. So I like the fact that when you're looking at that cover, it didn't reveal it for you.
Interesting point. I didn't really think of that or notice that at the time. I liked the characterization of Harley on this. It's very clear in this cover who Harley is.
Yeah.
With the tongue sticking out at the side. It's a very goofy look for Harley. I liked Granny's dark side belt buckle.
I didn't notice
she
that.
She has this dark side face belt buckle. I don't know where you buy something like that on Apocalypse, but
yeah,
it's a good looking belt buckle.
Hey. It works for her. She wears it well. The issue opens up with Holly, Mary, and Harley as they're trying to free the gods. Mary's got this connection, and she's following them, and they're right behind this massive door, and they're like, how are we going to get this open? Fortunately, Harley has a really big gun. And once again, usage of Harley was great. They're sitting there, how are we going to get open? Blam! And she blasts the door. Really cool thing. And then you go in and you see this device that is actually holding the gods, and it's this weird, it's like a fire type burning flaming ring. To me it looks like it's a combination of magic and tech, pure apocalyptian technology. It's a very fitting thing that I'm like, yes, I could see something like that being built by Darkseid. I can see something like that on Apocalypse, and I could see something like that holding the gods. That was cool. I was worried it was going to be some type of just a simple crystal or some type of thing. No, this is some massive, powerful thing that is needed to hold these massively powerful beings. I like that.
This is really interesting, and it's funny how differently I'm reading this now. As far as questioning, part of me thinks this is really Mary's redemption. Another part of me wonders, is she being manipulated yet again by being teased with what she wants or what she thinks is right for her?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it is really, it's funny how knowing what I know now and rereading these issues and looking through, because I went through and I reread all these twice over this last week. Normally I reread them once for prep for the show, but after reading the last two issues, I needed to go back and reread to get my own head around what, at least kind of develop for myself what I think is happening with this character. But if you take a look at this, she says that her connection with the gods is bringing her into that, and you see her that she's so excited for this. They tell her basically to bow down, that it's almost like they're telling her that she still has the power, but she's like, she doesn't, I rejected them. So she tentatively says Shazam, and when that happens, and I know I'm skipping a little bit ahead here, but Take a look at her. Neil Gray pointed this out to me when it first happened, and I was worried about it right back then. And the Shazam symbol.
Yes. I had the comments on that. The very first time, it's a really cool moment we got going on there. She goes up there. She has that very tentatively Shazam type of thing. It wasn't the normal Shazam power blast. And then the first time you see her, she's got this moment where she's got the bright lights around her. She's on a cloud. She's got her, the white, outfit with the gold trim. But you look at the lightning bolt. It's not yellow. It's not the gold bright bolt. It's a gray, black type thing. And I'm like, and I didn't even notice it the first time through, to be honest with you. It wasn't until my read through the second time that I noticed that. I'm like...
Well, Neil Gray mentioned it in the forum. That's Red Lantern on the forum. He mentioned it then. And it really did make me go back and reread this issue. And I took a look at it because I'll be honest with you, and it's where the swerve so totally worked. I've enjoyed Mary's journey so much, and I wanted to see her redeemed so much that I think it's why I'm reading these differently now. I was going in there, with eyes glazed. I'm like, yes, Mary, you're doing everything that I said this right from the get-go. I wanted to see Mary redeemed. I wanted to see it so bad that I think I was letting myself be clouded in the way that Mary was almost.
Yeah.
In this sequence. And I'm not saying that this is for sure what's happening here, but it sure looks like she's being led around like a fish on a pole.
Yeah, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised that she was. That all of this was planned from the beginning. Because, we're dealing with, look at who the powers who are in play right now. Look at who is, running the chessboard. It makes sense.
And here's my question now. I mean, we see, in between this, we see that the challengers, and we can kind of just quickly go through this. The challengers see the lightning, and Donna points out immediately, it's not regular lightning.
Yeah, they knew right away what it was. And they even commented, what's Captain Marvel doing on Apocalypse?
Right.
It's, and that actually even added to just my sheer enjoyment of it because, you get, when she does the very tentative, you show them the flash, the lightning bolt, then you go to Mary, and that's a full-page spread.
Daggling the rod in our face here, too, because it's brilliant. If really they've been swerving us all along with this, it's brilliant how they did it, because they dangled the rod in your face with the carrot on it for you to just kind of bite at. With Kyle.
And just look at the expression on Mary's face. When she's sitting there, she's got a tear running down her face, and she says, thank you. And it's just this, you're like, yes, and you want to reach in the give Mary a hug, say, you're back, honey. Yes, this is awesome. It just completely, you're going along with it. You're not even noticing the little subtle clues as to, hold on a second. And even segue into the very next page where they show the gods there. And they drew these gods just awesome. It's just like a nice display of them. And even Holly has the comment whoa, the real Athena. And you can see her just shock and awe about who the real Athena is. She's no comparison to what Granny Goodness portrayed. Not even remotely close was just this magnitude of, who the real Athena, who the real gods are. I was like, wow, this is cool.
All right, I'm going to throw a curveball out here. Are these the real gods? Or is this more manipulation?
Who knows? To be honest, I don't know. And
I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I guess I just naturally assumed on my first read through these are the gods. Hey, everything's cool again. But are they?
Yeah, and it's...
did you read Trials of Shazam number 12?
Yes, I did.
To see how that wrapped up?
Yes.
With the changing age of magic, I'm just wondering... obviously these stories are very different directions right now and where they are. But things have changed, it seems, in that universe. So I'm questioning a whole lot right now.
I tell you, it wasn't until the recent issues of Countdown that I even remotely questioned this. And that's why I loved how they did and what they did with this. Mm-hmm. Because when I first read through this, I was like, oh my God, the gods are back. This is really going to change everything. What's going to happen now? And I tell you, it was just one of those things I was like, man, I was like, wow.
My question here is, what powers does she have here?
I'm guessing... very similar to the powers she had before.
Right.
When I did a wiki on Mary Marvel one time, and they said one of the incarnations of her, she had these gods were her power base.
Okay.
She didn't have the same as the Marvel heroes, and it was
which opens up
but it all spelled out the same thing with Shazam, mm-hmm. And all that. But it was a little bit different powers, not the same, but it was still powerful.
There's a little bit of a history here.
Right.
Okay. I'm curious. I'm not saying that I'm totally convinced on this either. I'm just, I'm really confused at the moment on what to believe and what not. This could totally be a moment where she was redeemed, and maybe that's why, just to show this a different power base, that's why her symbol changed. But the dark symbol says a lot to me.
Yeah. And I tell you, as we're continuing, and one of the things that I really like to help me sell that these are the gods is as the story continues, they're complimenting Mary, good job, and immediately, Harley's like, hey, she wasn't alone here. We kind of helped out too. We were doing most of the heavy lifting for her. She just said it's Shazam. That's it. Come on, give me some credit. And you even see Holly like, calm down, Harley. These are gods. But it attracts, it gets, the attention of, Thalia, the daughter of Zeus, who is actually the muse of comedy, who notices Harley. He's like, oh, I like her feisty attitude. I'm going to give you some of my powers. Boom. Harley gets something. Then, of course, Diana, the goddess of the hunt, sees Holly and says, okay, and I will give you some of my powers. Boom. So now Holly and Harley both are jacked up on powers from these gods. And they're given one more assignment. Take out the imposter. Take out the person who betrayed me. And this was a really cool moment because you think about it. How they just freed the gods. Athena, the real Athena, is telling them, okay, you did a good job. I got a mission for you now. You are now my vessel. You are now fighting for me, the real Athena. Go kick Granny's butt. I was like, I was eating this up going, yes, 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 this is what I wanted to see. This is where I wanted to see Mary go. I was thinking to myself, hey, I wonder if Holly and Harley can keep these powers on. That'd be awesome. Maybe they do a trifecta of the three and not just the two of them. I was like, wow, and I was like sitting there and I'm reading this jazz, running through all these possible combinations that could happen in my head. And I was like, wow, this is cool.
As I'm looking at this, I have to question, would Darkseid manipulate all this, give them powers to take out Granny Goodness to achieve his goals?
Yes. Yeah, without even hesitation. And because even Darkseid has said it.
The sacrifice of the pawn, the sacrifice of Mary Marvel that Midge was talking about.
Yeah, and it's not only just, Darkseid doesn't see Granny as his queen or bishop. Granny Goodness is a pawn. Granny Goodness is a tool.
Yeah, for his purposes entirely. So
it's, I could definitely see him doing that, and and once again, it's a beautiful chess play. Because you're looking and you're seeing this and you're thinking, ooh, Darkseid's got his... No, Darkseid was at all times in complete control. He knew what was happening. He knew how it was going to end. And he planned it from the very beginning. I was like, wow, this is cool.
It's fun exploring this series after reading a battery of issues.
Yeah.
It's one of the nice things about being able to do that because it helps you look at it in different ways. It's one of the things about this ride, I will say, that's pretty consistent is I'm never 100% sure. Like even when we're talking about this right now, I'm seeing tons of possibilities on what's really happening here, and I'm liking that part of the journey. Like I'll see listeners post their thoughts on the forum about what's going on in this series. And I get something from that because they're all kind of looking at this in a different way. And, I'll pull bits and pieces of that from my own thoughts, based on what my own reading is. It's a fun series to explore. It's like a Karate Kid.
Dude, really cool. Because you show, it goes right from this, segues back to Val. And he's fighting off Una, but he doesn't want to hurt her. This is the Una Omac, and he's sitting there like, come on, Una, you're stronger than I. Fight it, and just doing that whole hero, motivational, win one for the Gipper type stuff and trying to, reach Una inside the Omac, and just get out, who is, his friend that's in there. And, once again, Omac's having problems, can't assimilate, for some reason, Val. So going to shift the plan B, termination. And it's off camera. Once again, you have the master of how to make friends. Forget it, Gee Boy. That speech only works in the movies. As we see Jason, throws a rope around Val and pulls him out of the Una's grasp. And, it's just, another cool interaction between the two because they're all around each other. Because we saw earlier, Jason swang overhead of Piper, so we know Piper's also in the area. Odds are the other challengers aren't too far away. So it's like, I like how they're all connected with each other. And once again, we see the tough guy Val and the tough guy Jason. Two very similar street fighters, trained combat specialists, who whatever you want to call them, physical brawlers. But the big difference, Val's like, hey, help me Brit Una back. Help me contain her. Jason's like, no. What are you, nuts? She's OMAC now. She's gone. Forget about her.
Consumed by OMAC.
Yeah.
Part of consumed by OMAC. You're not kidding. He's being a realist, and he's looking at the Val and saying, dude, just blow her up and leave.
Yeah.
So he's trying to, he's got that hybrid good guy thing where he's like, hey, I'll help you out of here, dude. But if you're going to, stop me from doing that, I'm gone.
Yeah, and once again, we see that Red Hood Jason Todd saying, all right, see ya, I tried, and leaves. And, leaves Val alone, and obviously, Una I takes out Val, but she doesn't terminate him. Because she figures, okay, we got to study him for autopsy. Why couldn't I assimilate? And she, throws Val over the shoulder and starts heading back to the eye. This leads
for an autopsy.
Yeah, you gotta love.
Which fits though a computerized mind.
Yeah, it's not study, it's autopsy, it's dissection. It's figure out what makes this thing tick after we cut it up.
Rather than wasting him.
Right. And it's not the humanely put him down and then study him. It's dissect him, autopsy while he's still alive, because he'll eventually die, and you can eventually have a technical autopsy when he's dead. So, I like that. But this heads back to Granny and Mary, Holly, Harley, and I tell you, this for me, I was reading this going, I was just so pumped seeing them all fight, and you see Granny, she knows things are looking bad, so she sends her royal guard to sacrifice themselves for Granny, just so she can escape. Harley again, once again, she amuses me. Hey Granny, why don't you act your age and die? It's not the nicest thing to say, but it fit, and it was just that little, I like Harley when we see this type of style to her. She's swinging around that big old mallet, so it's very fitting to her personal style. They're throwing down with the guards, and, it's also some good stuff where we see Mary Marvel doesn't still want them to kill. There's the one scene where Holly takes out one of the guards. She's like, hey, I said no killing. She's like, we're at war. You got to deal with this. We got to do this sometimes. And that was another thing. I was like, oh, yeah, there's Mary. She's saying don't kill. I was like, yes. So it's really just neat stuff going on.
Is that because she's really back or because she wants to believe she's back?
I don't know. And see, once again, at the time when I first read this, I said it's because Mary's back. We got Mary Marvel back. I was doing jumping jacks. I was whooping it up because we had this hero back. And I'm like, yes, we're going to see her. And then I was thinking in my head, oh, yeah, we're going to see her redemption for all the stuff she did. We're going to have the remorseful Mary Marvel doing what she's got to do and stuff like that. And even after I noticed the black and
What
bolt.
has she done to be redeemed, though?
Well, I'm thinking, here's what I noticed, and something I thought of. We see that black and bolt. I figured what was going to happen was she would have to prove herself to be Mary Marvel that she is. And that's what, and I was figuring in my head, we'd see this whole segment where we'd go through her doing good, and then eventually the one time she'd call on the power of Shazam, and you'd see the bright gold bolt, and I'd be like, yeah! And that's what I was figuring was going to happen. That's everything that was going through my head. As soon as I noticed that black bolt, I said, oh, it's got to be something like that. That's going to be awesome to see her come back. Maybe she'd get her own version of mini trials or something like that.
With her.
Yeah, it's... I'm actually not too confused by it. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. And,
I'm still confused by it. And I mean, in a bad way, I'm still trying to get a handle on her story. Was she redeemed here? Was she... A lot right now, depending on who are those gods. Who are those gods means a lot to me.
Okay.
Are those really the gods? Is that manipulation? Is that what? I need to know who they are. I haven't seen that yet.
Here's my opinion going through with everything, this read, the current read stuff, those weren't the real gods.
Okay.
Mary was given fake powers to lead her to somewhere we get in a couple issues, and it's still, she hasn't had any redemption. It's all part of the seduction of the innocents. We still haven't seen the good Mary Marvel come back. Mm-hmm. This is all just, it's one of those things where, it's the master manipulator, leading her along the entire way. Knew that she would feel good. Knew that she would have these great moments that I'm back. I'm Mary Marvel. I'm one of the good guys again. Just so that when it's taken away, when it's when she turns once again, it will be a permanent turn.
Well,
it's that whole. This is the final permanent turn to evil. This is the final seduction of the goodness.
Adding weight, though, to it not being a redemption would be the fact that Darkseid tried so hard and she turned on him, which was unexpected at that point in time. Eclipso didn't accomplish her goal.
So he had to take the matters into his own hands.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's what's going on here. I don't know.
That's what I honestly... at the time when I was reading this, I had no thought on that at all. I was thinking we were seeing the redemption of Mary Marvel. But later issues, this is exactly where I'm like,
I will say
crap.
From the get-go, I didn't see this the way I'm seeing it now. But I will say that I thought everything was quick, but then I was kind of like, well, they probably had to wrap everything up quickly, and that's why they're doing this. To me, it's kind of like, I think it was supposed to deliberately feel this way. To feel a little quick, a little like, what did she do to get redeemed? How is she all of a sudden a good guy again? What does that mean? I think it's supposed to feel that way.
Yeah, and because it wasn't a true redemption.
Yeah.
And even when she gives him the powers, the gods tell her, you were tested and you came close to the thing, but you're back to, who you should be and that kind of stuff. And she really didn't pass any tests. Yeah, she initially gave up her powers to defeat Eclipso, but did she really give up her powers? Or was it just a blockage of them? Did she ever really lose the power of Black Adam in her?
It's interesting.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm pretty sure that, and I think by the end of Final Crisis, Countdown, we'll get a more definitive answer, but it's probably something that's going to get explained in the Final Crisis. I don't think the Mary Marvel story will be completely done by the end of thing.
There's not enough issues.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, though, as we continue going through, and this is fun reviewing this at this point and really talking about this at this point, because I'm curious to see what gets revealed to us from here on out. How much of it we really find out about. I'm enjoying this ride immensely.
Yeah, and it's cool. One of the things and especially the thing that really got me so pumped about Harley and Holly's powers were how they were so personalized to them. During the commotion, Granny gets away and they're tracking, and Holly's like, I can track her. And you see the cat eyes pop in there, and she actually picks up the scent of Granny, and they start tracking to follow to get Granny. I was like, man, that is just, she's got Huntress, cat eye type powers. I was like, sweet. And then I was so giddy with just those two especially. I was really glad about Mary Marvel, but it was the Holly and Harley stuff that just really had me, yes, this is cool.
I'm with you on the series part. I'm hoping that those rumors of a new series are true, because I like them as characters. I really think that I'd like to see a Gotham City-based series in general with some of the other characters like this. I think there's room for a Batwoman to appear in a series like that. There's room for the Question to appear in a series like that. So I'd really like to read something like that. I think that their characters, I think there's enough going on in the Bat universe, especially with Gotham Underground, that I think would lead to a series like that. So,
and they wouldn't even actually have to be in Gotham. It would be cool to see them in Gotham because that's where their ties are, but part of me would like to see them go somewhere else. Say, hey, you know what? Gotham hasn't been the best town for us. Why don't the two of us hit the road and we try something new? Why don't we go somewhere else? Go out to the West Coast. Cleveland. Cleveland would love to have Harley in it, but that's where I'd like to see these characters. Actually, bring back the, how we had the Green Arrow and Green Lantern on the road? Bring it back, but have it be these two traveling around, coming into
new hard traveling heroes?
Yeah, have it be these two. That would be just a really fun, read.
It's interesting as these three realize they're trapped.
Yeah, because, we skipped over something big. As they're tracking down Granny, they're getting close. They're like, yeah, it's time. Ing shows up, the new God Killer. Bam! Bye-bye, Granny. Fried. Nothing but just, pile of smoldering bones. Very fitting ending for her. I'm glad that's how she met her demise. It was a very nasty death for Granny Goodness, whereas very fitting. And their reaction was actually kind of cool, because at first they were all kind of glad. They're like, yeah, she's done. All right. And then they realized, that's our ride off the planet. What are we going to do? And then, but Harley, once again, has just the greatest reaction. She's like, I don't care. I got powers. That is Harley. She's, nothing phases her. You may call her crazy, but, okay, yeah, she is crazy, but you know what? It's that cool crazy where, things like that doesn't phase her. You don't sweat the small stuff, and everything is the small stuff to her. That is just, and she just naturally flows with it. And you look at her character throughout the entire countdown, throughout all this mess, it's been Harley just, her reactionary to problems that have led them to on and on bigger and better things. It was when they were in training, that they left, that they ran into Hippolyta. And when they were on Themyscira, it was her who first jumped after Granny Goodness, which got them to free the quote-unquote gods and get their powers. This is who Harley is. She's like that leap first, everything will work out in the end kind of attitude. And I love that about her.
This is where it gets real interesting because they kind of converge on then with the challengers because they realize that they're stuck and they're trapped and things like that because of their ride, and they come across the challengers. I like that they don't recognize who Harley is.
Yeah.
Although, she's such a goofy person, but, she's not dressed up as the Jokers.
Yeah, she's not dressed up as Harley Quinn.
Because Mary's hanging with them.
Yeah, she's got to be okay. But right. Even Harley's comments, though, to Donna, I love that outfit. The stars are so cool. They're so real.
Are they real?
Are they real?
Assuming these might be real stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, once again, this the little humor in a serious moment that makes, reading her so much fun. This leads us back to Piper, as he's being tempted / manipulated, whatever you want to call it, by Desaad. All of this can be yours, Harley. And it's, okay, I'm not a big-time real estate mogul, but promising someone hell probably would not be the best of sales pitches. Like, hey, look what you can get. This can be all yours. And once again, Piper's like, Piper isn't buying it. And we also, cool moment, is we learn why Piper has been involved in this. What is Piper's role throughout all of this? And as I said, it was the hugest swerve for me. I didn't see it coming. He has the ability to channel the anti-life equation through his music. That is how he's able to do his manipulation. It's not just tone and fluctuations and stuff like that. It is the fact that he is the human host of the anti-life equation. I was like, wow. Completely had no idea that was coming.
This is real interesting, though, because obviously he's trying to, and it's further proof, he was trying to overtake Darkseid.
Yeah, or at least save his own neck.
I saw it as this is a power play. Where Desaad, do you think if Desaad got a hold of the anti-life equation, he would give that to Darkseid?
Oh, God, no. Oh, no. But he maybe not, I don't know if, actually he would destroy Darkseid immediately. Because Darkseid would be his largest threat to continuing the control. And once again, I like how just showing the manipulator that is Desaad. Because, he's just continuing on. You have Piper, who is, as we said, a defeated man. Everything about him is destroyed to the point where he was going to commit suicide. He was ready to cash in his chips, say, I'm done, end of the world. And even, as Desaad's telling him, hey, you could hold the whole world in your hands. This is who you are. He's like, all I have is, this hand. And it's the trickster hand. And Desaad's like, no, freeze him from the cuffs. No problem. You don't have to worry about that anymore. And it's just this cool thing where every time Piper came up with a reason why he didn't want to be, he's like, there are no rats here. He's like, well, then let your first creation be rats. You will be the champion, the owner of this world. This will be your playground to do with as you wish. You will become a god. And you have this broken man who's lost everything, and now you're giving him the light at the end of the tunnel. Now you're telling him you will be the Lord of all creation. You will be able to do whatever you want. All your wishes, all your dreams, everything that could possibly come true will come true. And I was just like eating this up, just seeing the manipulation, because it never once entered my head that if Piper had actually activated the anti-life equation, that Desaad wouldn't have figured out a way to steal it from him and then immediately killed Piper. And you can see that. And I was just like, oh, this is just a cool, cool moment. What's going to happen next with Piper?
It's interesting, though, they get stopped by Brother Eye.
Yeah.
Who has taken over Apocalypse, which would be, this is Midge's big play.
Yeah,
this does give Midge the opportunity then to control Apocalypse.
Yeah, he has Apocalypse now. And once again, it's a really just the evolution, growth, or whatever you want, whatnot of Brother Eye is kind of cool. Because, as he's taking over, as you see the rumbling in the ground, all the heroes start falling. Even Desaad's like, no, I'm too late. And it's like, curse you. I've missed out on my opportunity. You have this cool comments from Brother Eye. Father, can you hear me? Father Bruce, I am no longer a child. I have surpassed you, Father. I have become a whole world unto myself. Really, really cool looking panel that goes along with these documents about just showing, the apocalypse, but it's not the same apocalypse because it's got the big old eye right on it. So I was like, damn, this is nice looking stuff here.
I liked the origin of Harley Quinn in the back.
Yeah,
with Bruce Timm's art right from the animated series, but even particularly good when you take a look at the Joker. In his little segment, because he basically broke Batgirl, and what he did with Robin.
Yeah.
Jason Todd. It totally fits. He's got him X'd out in the background. I loved that art style. I really, really enjoyed that animated series by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and that whole crew.
Yeah. Here's something interesting. Now, I admit I am a conspiracy nut. I fully admit that. Yeah, when I saw that, I said it's one of two things. Either one, it's a really funny moment about how he took out Batman, how he took out Batgirl, how he took out Robin, and all that stuff. Or could it be like a telegraphing of a future story? We had this whole Batman R.I.P. Are we seeing maybe the Joker will get the upper hand on Batman? Maybe he'll get the trifecta. I
don't see that happening. I think the Batman R.I.P. is another dangling carrot meant to make us speculate and question. And I think something big is going to happen in that storyline. I think it's going to be something that totally shocks us, though, in a way that's not so obvious. I might be wrong. I don't know. I'm curious on that one.
Yeah. As I said, I'm a conspiracy nut. As I said, I fully admit that, and that's probably nothing. But
I think that was more on the surface level, meant to be showing what the Joker's already done to the Bat family.
Yeah. Now, did he know that? I can't remember. Did he know that Barbara Gordon was Batgirl, or did he just take out Barbara Gordon? Because I thought he just took out Barbara Gordon, not Batgirl.
Right. Yeah. How would he know? Because wouldn't that put Commissioner Gordon then as a target? And wouldn't Commissioner Gordon then know that she was Batgirl and all that?
Right.
I don't know.
Interesting. Who knows?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
Maybe he wants to believe that. I don't know.
Yeah. Alrighty. Our next issue is Countdown to Final Crisis number 9. The writer is Paul Dini with Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. Story consultant Keith Giffen. Pencils by Tom Derenick. Inks by Wayne Faucher. Colors by Pete Pantez. Letterer Ken Lopez. Cover by, once again, Stephen Raw and Karen...
Isn't it Pantazis?
Pantazis? What did I say? Pantaz?
Yeah, because it's C-I-S.
Yeah, P-A-N-T-I-Z-I-S.
Z-A-S.
Z-A...
Oh, sorry, wait. P-A-N-T-A-Z-I-S.
Right.
Pantaz.
Okay,
I
was saying Pantaz, but it could be Pantazis. It could be that extra. I was just figuring...
Well, Pantaz, wouldn't that be without the I-S?
But a lot of times the I-S is pronounced like an E-S.
But aren't you leaving out the Z sound then? Pantaz? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a good question.
I don't know. If anybody knows the proper pronunciation for any of these names, please let me know, because I am really dying.
Oh, I am too.
Especially Karine Mucanfuso. B-U-B-O-C-C.
Just spell it. Because to me, I'd rather spell it than...
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to pronounce it because, I don't know.
See, I think trying to pronounce it half the time, that's why I got to spelling them. I think trying to pronounce it half the time is where we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the name is because we're trying to do it justice. And I think it's better just to admit we're not going to do it justice, spell it out of courtesy.
B-O-C-C-A-N-F-U-S-O. And the assistant editor, of course, is Elizabeth Garland with editor Mike Carlin. Once again, another cool cover. As we're seeing, Kyle, Donna, Mary, Ray, Holly, Harley, they're all flying, basically flying out of the book into the reader, and you can see the look on their face. They're going into battle. This isn't a joyride.
Too is Jason.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's not with that Challenger group, and I noticed that, and I like that, because he does fly. So also Una and Val aren't with him either, but it's that crew that is like the Challenger crew, as I'm kind of referring to them, because they're all working together. But once again, another cool, just little moment there. The issue opens up, and we see Piper just crawling out of the wreckage of the crumbled apocalypse. He comes across Desaad, who actually kind of looks like he may be dead or out cold, and Piper sees this type of symbol on Desaad's hand and then pushes it. Now, personally, if I were to see Desaad down on cold, I wouldn't touch him, go anywhere near him. I'd see him, I would run the other way just because I want to separate myself from that whack job as much as possible. But I kind of understand the curious nature of Piper, and he goes, hey, what's this? And he pushes it, and bam, that wakes up Desaad immediately. And Desaad, once again, is got to keep control of Piper. He's like, start playing now, and just demanding it from him. Just when you've kind of figured things can't get any worse for Piper, he's got Desaad right there trying to manipulate him. He just had a planet dropped on him. It does, of course, get worse as Una Omak arrives. Desaad sees her and just, basically, it was kind of funny that he just lights into her just as if she was a regular person and telling him, you can consume the whole of Apocalypse, but this human is mine. I broke him of his will. I led him here for one purpose in mind. And it's like he's saying, whatever you want, I don't care. This one's mine. I found him. You can't have him. And I'm reading that going, dude, man, wrong play here because... yeah, you're a master manipulator. Yeah, you're a sneak, whiny, sniveling, whatever you want to call Desaad. But you're not a powerhouse, and you really can't play the tough guy role, and an Omak will kick your butt. And once again, we see that. And I like how Una dealt with him. She's like sitting there and goes, mute subject, bam, and blasts him. But, of course, it's not before we get another nice
with a
villain
choom.
rant. Yeah, with a choom. But it's not before, though, we get a nice little neat villain rant where Desaad does confirm, what power, that Piper's powers are based on the anti-life equation. And how Desaad tormented Piper with one trial after another to break him down mentally and physically. And then once he was on Apocalypse, he was going to steal the anti-life equation for him. You got to love how it just... these nice villain rants. Normally, I do complain about the James Bond villain rants, but I'm liking their usage in there because even Una notices what he said. It's like, that's interesting. Mute subject.
No, it was mute subject then interesting when she was looking at Piper.
Oh, okay.
So she already blasted him, so she found Piper interesting at that point, which Brother I would be finding Piper interesting because of the power contained.
Right, that's...
Yeah. I wasn't so much Desaad was interesting.
No, I didn't mean Desaad. I meant Piper. Yeah.
When it's funny as I'm looking at this stuff, the manipulation of Desaad adds a lot of weight to what Darkseid's been doing behind the scenes. If Desaad can do this, what can Darkseid manipulate? Yeah, makes me more worried for Mary in general.
And of course, as we're talking about just the manipulation of Desaad did to Piper one trial after another, we do know where this is leading, don't you? This is leading to one thing. Desaad wanted to break Piper of everything. First, he gets him chained up. He gives him one trial, never gives him a moment to rest. So what's the final thing he knows to do to break Piper's will, to break him of everything? Take away his traveling buddy. Desaad was the second shooter.
No, he was not. He put
one of his minions was the second shooter.
He was not. It was Deadshot.
He saw that it wasn't going to happen, and so he took care of him.
All right. No, what happened here was, and then you can see it right here, he manipulated the Penguin so that way they were caught by the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad went to take him, and that put them in the position where they were being hunted by the Suicide Squad. He manipulated Deadshot into shooting. Now, I will agree that he manipulated Deadshot and then caused that shooting at that point.
I think he was watching it, making sure that guy would die.
Then why didn't they show that?
I'm probably going to guess they had a lack of panel space, and they had to. It was an editor decision. Probably somewhere on the cutting room floor is the panel of showing somebody else, showing a parademon or something like that with the rifle.
What kind of drugs did they give you for your colon? Hey. Now, I will agree with you. Now, wait. In fairness and bending to this, I will agree with you in the sense that he had something to do with that shooting, in the sense that I agree. He put them in a position where Deadshot would take him out. And he probably manipulated that situation. You remember, Deadshot was turning off his comms. Deadshot was ignoring when they were saying to bring them in. Remember that during the helicopter ride? Which, again, why was Deadshot ignoring them? Because Desaad was pulling those strings at that point. I will totally agree with you that Desaad had a hand in that. And you're 100% correct there. So, I'm totally seeing the way that you're seeing that in the sense that you're right. Desaad had a hand in all that. But the manipulation we see here with the Penguin is the same thing he did to Deadshot.
See, I think he had more. I think his hands were bloody.
Wait.
I think he had more.
Take a look back to what happened during that sequence. Deadshot was coming in. He was following behind them. He was being told to stop by his superiors. Instead of doing that, completely ignored them. Why? Desaad. And that's exactly why he hunted them down, then he shot the trickster. All because of the fact that Desaad was pulling those strings.
I don't know. My game plan is this. And this is where I will finally be able to drop this subject. I'm going to try at New York Con to talk to somebody associated with this. I'm going to try if I can get the question to see if there was a second shooter.
What would the purpose be in having a second shooter and never revealing that?
I honestly think it was just something that they're implying in here, and even later on in a couple panels later, in a couple pages later on.
Show me where in a couple panels later that you see that.
I will show.
I'm totally giving you that.
And I'm pretty sure it's 100%
this issue. With you, and I think you're dead on when it comes to saying that Desaad had a hand in all that. I agree with you. You are actually serious about this, aren't you?
You know what? It's a little column A, a little column B. Okay. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
When I first
the insanity part with you, I can totally buy because it's definitely you're going over the top with this.
Yeah.
But I agree. In giving this conversation a serious thread here on what you're saying here, I agree with you completely that Desaad had a hand in it. Yeah. And I'll even argue the fact that if you want to say that Desaad pushed Deadshot to do it, so you're giving him, Desaad is the one that pulled the trigger, I'll even give you that. But to imply that there is actually another player that actually shot Trickster is insane. Now, I totally giving you that if you want to say that the second shooter was Desaad, I'll give you that in the sense that if you're saying he manipulated Deadshot, he caused Deadshot to ignore his superiors, he did all that the same way that he manipulated Penguin in this panel, which is what they're trying to broadcast to us, that he was standing behind certain people and pushing them, I will give you that 110% and even say to you, wow, you were really onto something there. I'll give you that. But to imply still at this point that there was some other person who was in there is insane.
I think you know what? I think I'm actually going to do the smart thing right now and just take that's what I meant. Yeah.
Because I'm totally seeing here that you're right there, and I'll give you that.
And to be honest, when I first initially started talking about the second shooter, I literally did think there was a second body. But
do you still feel that at this point at any level?
No, not at all. I do believe, though.
Going back to speculation back then, and we can even argue with that being speculation.
I do feel, though, all kidding aside, joking aside, that what you're saying, how it was Desaad telling him to turn off the monitor, telling him to shoot, and maybe even Desaad helping him aim and target, so he didn't target Piper, but he targeted Trickster. That's actually where I went to my second shooter theory went to that.
That you're saying there's a puppet master behind the scenes. And actually, I will give you that completely. I think you're dead on. Yeah. I mean, this is clearly the puppet master that you were talking about then.
Yeah, I was going to continue on with the second physical shooter just because I thought it'd be kind of funny, but I'm like, you know what?
And actually give you kudos, I do think that there was somebody behind it. This is clear that the Deadshot sequence, when you look back at how it read, why would Deadshot, when he is, quote-unquote, Deadshot's a mercenary. So usually he's going to do things for the purpose. Why would he have such bloodlust for those two characters? Well, because Desaad was pushing those buttons and pushing him that way. That, to me, totally works with what happened in that storyline and the setup. And to a certain extent, I'll argue that maybe, that would be considered the second shooter. I'll actually give you that.
In the end, after reading this pen, that's actually where I went to. I was going to continue on with my whole second shooter rant because I figured it'd be kind of funny, have some fun moments, but I'm like, you know what? I think I'm actually going to stick with the serious topic and continue with that. So,
well, because it actually is an interesting point, though, because where I take this from here, again, Desaad's just a minion. Look at all he did. What's Darkseid capable of?
Yeah.
How much of this is he manipulating? How much is he still manipulating? And how much is he manipulating that we don't even know about yet?
Yeah.
I think that there's forget about what we've seen right now up to issue 3, okay? Because I'm trying not to spoil that, but I'm just going to say, let's just say right now, everything we've seen right now in this series up to this point from Darkseid, what haven't we seen? What don't we know? How powerful is he, and what has he been doing? I'm very, very interested in this.
Yeah. And this whole panel just leads us right back to the chessboard, which once again I love the chess analogy, and it's an interesting moment between Midge and Darkseid, where Midge is like, haha, I have Apocalypse, and Darkseid's like, oh well, he's like, it doesn't matter that you have it. It's like, my vision extends beyond the realities. Yes, all things must end, but they will end on Darkseid's terms. As he moves...
Well, he's saying that it doesn't matter that he has Apocalypse because the fourth world's going to die.
Yeah.
And Apocalypse will die with it, and it's going to all end on Darkseid's terms.
And it's like he wanted Midge to make the play for Apocalypse. He wanted Midge not to look at all his pieces in play. He wanted Midge not to think, 8 steps beyond. Midge is so happy that I have Apocalypse. Haha, I won, Darkseid. No, you didn't. That's just another pawn. All you did, you spent all your resources, all your plannings, you moved all your pieces into play for a simple pawn. I have more weapons in my arsenal. And as he's saying this, he moves Jimmy Olsen into play. And this, once again, wait a minute, he's moving Jimmy into play. What? We've seen all this funky stuff with Olsen. Are we going to get even more stuff going on from Jimmy and his involvement? Are we finally going to get more of a sign of what he's doing, what is his plans with Darkseid? I like that. I was
why are these things happening?
Why are these happening? Next, we get back to we see Jason Todd, and he sees the Una Omac carrying Val on one hand, and he's kind of dragging Piper along. And I like the fact that Jason still has that tactical type of mindset. He sees this going, wait a minute, why is an Omac taking prisoners? Why didn't she just convert them or kill them? This Omac is going to be taking me places, maybe back to the Big Eye itself, maybe my ride off of this rock. And he's such a situation, he analyzes, he goes, okay, I'm going to follow this. Now, it's interesting we get more of the Red Hood than Red Robin moments because he's like, with everything he's seen, the inner hero hasn't pushed out, and he's like, I'm going to leave this rock, oh well, and he's even going to, he's just going to leave the others behind, including Donna. He's like, she had her chance. She didn't go with the winning team. Oh, well. And Donna was...
Showing that there's still jealousy, though. Showing that there's still feelings there. I don't take this as he's totally over Donna, and I still think that he would try to get Donna's attentions or affections if he could.
See,
I like the selfishness, though, of being, I died once, I don't want to die again.
Yeah. And I kind of see it as yes, I agree with you, there is that jealousy that he still has, and jealousy he will never admit, that he's jealous of Kyle, he's jealous of the closeness between Kyle and Donna.
He just did admit it, though.
But not to, anybody else.
Well, people don't usually admit that to anybody else. Jealousy's not a trait that people are proud of, dude.
When I mean jealousy, admitting, I'm not saying him going up to someone, I'm really jealous of that Kyle, he's got it all going on. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. It's not like...
He would have preferred, he's right here admitting he would have preferred that Donna went with him.
Yeah.
And he and Donna rode off into the sunset together. But that's what he wanted here.
Right, that's what he wanted, but he's not really admitting that he's jealous that Kyle won Donna.
What has made the choice, Donna? You didn't pick the survivor.
Right.
Who did she pick then?
Yeah, well, hold on. He's not like, I'm jealous that Kyle won. He's saying Donna made the mistake. It's not his fault. It's not his flaw.
Why would he even make that comment if he didn't care?
That's his cover-up for it, his not admitting that he's jealous of Kyle. So you see, he's not directing the negative towards himself, saying, I'm not good enough for Donna. He's saying Donna made the mistake. You see, there's the difference.
But that's still jealousy.
But he's not...
He's not admitting jealousy, but it's still jealousy.
But it's,
I didn't say he's admitting jealousy.
Right.
I'm saying he's commenting on he's jealous. He's jealous. Why else make that? Why would he's in the middle of complaining here that this is the end of everything. He's leaving this hellhole because they're all screwed. And he's admitting right here that he's taking a break right here to admit to himself that, you had your choice, Donna. You could have left with me, but instead you didn't pick the survivor.
We're saying the same thing, but differently. What we're saying the same thing. It's just we're wording it differently, but we're exact agreement that he is jealous, but he's not going to admit that, hey, I wish I was more like Kyle. We're both saying that, and okay.
Well, I don't think he's trying to admit that. I don't think on any level he wants to be more like Kyle.
This is his way of justifying it in his own mind.
Okay.
He's not saying that he's wrong. He's saying Donna made the mistake. He's not diminishing who he is. Like, for example, if I was comparing myself to Kyle, I would say, I can understand, why Donna would go with Kyle because Kyle's a pretty cool guy, and, I am a sensei of whatnot. I understand. Green Lantern, sensei of whatnot. There's a big difference. Granted, we're both ring slingers, and we both got style, but I would understand it. You'll never hear any comment like that coming out of Jason. He'll say, Donna made the mistake. I'm the better catch.
Your head is a scary place at times.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just thinking what you say with you. I'm a ring slinger like he's a ring slinger,
Yeah, I
but
got
I'm
my
a
ring of
sensei of whatnot, and he's a Green Lantern. Crack me up. Wow. All right, can we talk about the challengers?
Yes. I've lost my place.
All right, I'll go with this. The challengers right now are they're trying to make their own escape. But I like the fact that Donna's being the rational one. Even though Jason's gone off to his side, Donna's recognizing there's a strength in how Jason operates. He is going to come across things that they won't because of his stealth. Because of the fact that he looks out for himself, he's already been looking for things and tends to stumble across things, important things in situations unwittingly.
And also adding to that is, once again, the dramatic difference between Donna and Kyle and the crew as compared to Jason. They're not going to leave a man behind. They're not going to find a way off of that rock without Jason, just because that is what a hero does. A hero doesn't abandon even an ass. You gotta take the risk. You gotta save the guy. You gotta do what's right. And I like that. That is a neat, hero trait, and I'm glad to see that we still see that in Donna, in Kyle. Even though Kyle doesn't want to go, he's still going to do it because it is the right thing to do.
Well, and that's the only reason that you have to give Kyle. That's what's the differences between Kyle and Jason.
Yeah. And I also like how they mention why the Omacs aren't fighting them. If you think about it, if I runs the planet, why aren't they being sworn by Omacs? Well, I is still assimilating the planet. It's still major resources. And if you look at the overall picture, they are minor players. I like the fact that they mentioned that it's not just something, they could have left it even assumed very easily, but they didn't. They brought it up to the forefront just to make sure that everyone knows that, yes, they're not the current target, but, eventually they will become the current target. Neat little kind of like foreshadowing.
As they're traveling along, we get to Sod, who actually is spying on them, recognizing that if he wants to find Piper, the best thing to do is just to skulk along behind them, hide in the corners, in the shadows, and wait till they find Piper, and kill them all and take the anti-life equation for himself.
Yeah.
Let them do the work for him of tracking down Piper so that we can get what he's looking for.
And of course, Piper being Piper, where if it wasn't for bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. Where is he? He's in the middle of it really big time bad. We got Una Omac and Brother Eye sitting there. They start to scan. They're scanning Val, and they see, of course, the Mordicoccus virus in him, and they figured, okay, start dissection. And Piper's just in the middle like, oh my God, what am I in the middle of now? What the heck? How it keeps going from bad to worse. And a really neat little thing where they show the flutter of Jason's cape. As he's been following them the whole time, he's like, okay, I'm in this main chamber. Let me start doing some scanning. And he goes right in and he finds the power chamber where there's, Firestorm is hooked up to the main generators. He mentions the shiny guys, which of course are the Knights, where the Knights are being kept. And it's, Jason is Jason. He found the core center, the main frame, if you will, of the bad guys. Well, now that he's there, Brother Eye detects him and launches Una Omac after him. It's I like this. Just the fact that you look at how Brother Eye sees Jason. It's like, okay, terminate intruder, continue with the dissection of Val armor. It's, yes, we have an intruder, but I'm not going to stop my main focus. Very computer driven. It's very mechanical, machine oriented. They're not going to stop their main mission, just to deal with this other thing. Whereas a person might say, okay, let's deviate resources here, and maybe the dissection of Val wouldn't commence. Not with Omac, not with Brother Eye.
I like how this is working out here, too, because Jason's trying to negotiate with Brother Eye a way off of here, but also recognizes the strength in Firestorm. As he's being attacked, instead of trying to fight toe-to-toe with the Omac, he uses weight. He uses balance. He shifts the balance of the Omac so the Omac goes flying into the chamber that'll free Firestorm, hoping that this will protect him at this point in time. A strategy, a really good sound strategy that his mentor would have used as well, recognizing that he can't fight and win against the Omac physically.
Yeah, and it's once again, it's the training of the bad. It's what we see in these human heroes where they're not gonna go toe to toe. They're gonna use the training. They're gonna use the flips, the various, and the the surroundings, use a villain to hit another villain, throw a villain into the containment chamber that was holding Firestorm. It's nice little manipulation, nice knowing your surroundings, knowing what you can do and what your enemy is going to do. It's, combat tacticians. It's, the training that you get from doing martial arts hand-to-hand type fighting. It was like I was reading this going, man, I want this guy to be such a hero. I want him so badly to be fighting alongside Bruce and Tim and, Dick. I wanted to see that so bad.
I don't want to see it, though, be a light switch, though, all of a sudden where Jason's a good guy. He's done too much to be all of a sudden instantly, hey, I'm good now, folks. Whoa, hey, Bruce, let's give a big group hug. It just doesn't... I don't want to see that. I'm not saying eventually I wouldn't geek out at seeing something like that. It's too soon for that. I do want to see in storytelling that comes out of this with him that the Batman on Earth 51 had a profound effect on him. That we're going to see a Jason that operates on a different level than he has previously. But I want to see a gradual shift, to where he buddies up maybe with some other people other than going to the Bat family.
Yeah, and when I say I want to see this, I'm not thinking Final Crisis #1, we'll see Jason fighting alongside him. I'm thinking a year or so from now, but part of me would like to see Red Robin. Part of me wants to see the redemption of Jason Todd still. Even though I do like the Red Hood villain, I do like, that character and everything that he does, I still want to see the good guy win. I still want to see just that there is good left in him. That, it's you haven't turned completely to the dark side. I want to see that.
But we've seen bits of that, though.
I know, and I'm
talking about back when he was Red Hood, we've seen that as well. I like... Go ahead.
Once again, as I say, it's within these cool action fight sequences, all this drama and all that, they still throw little bits of panel of humor in there. And it's usually Harley and Holly are those little bits, because when all the heroes show up, OMAC identifies everybody and refers to them as unknown females. Unknown females? What is this, Gilligan's Island? I'll show you an unknown female who can kick your as they get trounced. Once again, nice little funny moments that, as I'm reading, I'm chuckling, but it still doesn't take away from the action. It doesn't take away from the fight sequences. It's their style. It's like Spider-Man with the witty patterns as he's beating somebody up. Dick Grayson did that when he was a young Nightwing. A young Robin. It's the little funny banter that you see that makes sense, that I like in a comic, and it fits in here when it's not overdone. It doesn't turn it slapsticky, but it's a nice add-on to the story.
The level of what the OMAC, what Brother Eye has done to Val.
Oh, dude.
I didn't realize until I read this through a second time that it really cut into him so deep, and that the dissection had already gone to such a level where he was toast.
And I tell you, I like Ray's reaction to this. You see Ray there? He's shrunk down, he's in costume, and he sees Val. Now, he doesn't know who Val is. He really doesn't know what I wants with him, because he doesn't know that Val's got the Mordecaucus in him. But Ray sees that there's somebody in trouble. Ray sees he's like, that poor man, what is he doing to him? And he springs into action like a hero. Takes out the dissection tools, but unfortunately he is too late. And, I says, he's already extracted the Mordecaucus. And you see that cool look on Ray's face when he realizes what I has done. It's just like, oh my God, I failed. And it's just because he knows the serious nature of the virus, and he knows what's going to happen. He can, see, not see in the future, but he knows this is something nasty. Oh my God, what am I going to do now? I love that. Just that whole panel of the hero leaping in action, realizing I'm too late. Nuts. What do I do now? As the heroes gather, and it's kind of cool because they finally are able to overpower Una OMAC. Kyle's got her trapped up in an energy bubble, containing her for now. They're not sure how long, and they're gathered around I. And, it's one of those, I call it like the calm before the storm moments, because, they're like, okay, what do we do now? And even Ray comments that he knows I won't attack him there. I won't unleash a massive barrage of OMACs in there because they're in the main chamber. They can do damage actually to I there. He's not going to call him in. Unfortunately, I is not, caught off guard. He knows what to do, and it's a really cool moment because he uses his boom tube technology to snatch all the people out of the chamber room and put them right back on the surface. And you're sitting there, and you're completely surrounded by OMACs, and I was like, this is not good for them. And sure enough...
Some of the most breathtaking OMAC sequences in the original OMAC version when they came out was when... Remember that sequence with Nightwing in Infinite Crisis where the OMACs were flying over him?
Yeah.
It was that 2-page spread, and you got to see sheer numbers. This reminds me a lot of that. The best OMAC sequences are the ones where you see just how many of them there are and how overwhelming their numbers are, knowing how powerful just one is.
Yeah, and it's actually, it makes sense that there would be a massive swarm like that. Think about every citizen, parademon, and whatnot that are on Apocalypse. They are now OMACs. They are now been contained. They are now property of Brother Eye. And I'd like you to see that massive amount of, oh boy, this is not going to be good moment. And in the middle of it, of course, you have a little bit of levity. You got Jason telling Firestorm, stand up straight, we're about to die gloriously. It's, you're like, okay, this is about to be the greatest fight scene of all times. And I was really looking forward to seeing them just throwing down. And I'm like, man, how are they going to do this? Once again, a nice little swerve that I love just as much as seeing this glorious battle that I thought we were going to see between the OMACs and the Challengers. We go back to Piper, who he's kind of trying to sneak away. He's like, crawl away slowly. Maybe he's not looking, but he crawls right into Desaad. And Desaad is just miffed at him, and he demands that he starts playing. I laughed, really, because I loved what Desaad was doing. He went into that no more Mr. Nice Guy mode, which is a classic maneuver when you're manipulating, when you're brainwashing, when you're trying to control a situation. You beat somebody down, you give them such bad and bam, bam, so much nasty stuff, and then you say, okay, that's it, I was being nice before. I'm going to make everything you went through before look like a day in the park. Here, you want me mean? I'm going to be nasty. And that's what he did. And sure enough, it looks like it's working because, Piper's like, okay, I'll start to play. And you see Desaad just glowed, and he's like, yes, I have won. I am Desaad. I'm going to be the ruler of the world. But then we get that panel on Piper's face where he gets that rogue, nasty kind of grin saying, okay, buddy, you want me to play? I'll play for you. And it is just absolutely wonderfully drawn. I love that sequence.
I like that Desaad used the madness around him and the chaos around him to manipulate him, though.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, you can actually end all this. You can stop all this by playing, is what he was going for there. And I liked that aspect of the whole thing because that's where he's totally swerved into thinking that he crushed this guy's spirit, and he didn't. I liked Piper looking at him. That's what you did to Trickster. You sick SOB. I love it.
That was absolutely beautiful because
it's beautiful.
It was for me. It was like she starts playing, and you see Desaad's head explode. Desaad was the only new god who's not killed by the new god killer, which I loved. Mm-hmm. But when I read that, I was like, yes. And then when he throws down that line, I'm like, oh my god. I was like, the perfect icing on the cake. That was just like, wow. And it could have ended right there, and I would have been happy, but they continue on with the moment. And I tell you, it was just, what we get the next couple panels that we get out of Piper were just the coolest hero moments with just some wonderful dialogue. And I'm giving him hero props saying, yes, Piper here is being a hero. This right here is the redemption of Piper. This is, and it's just like, this is my swan song, Trickster. What shall I play? I stand on a lonely stage with a single spotlight. Another hero, another mindless crime behind the curtain in the pantomime. Yeah, the perfect song for the showstopper. Outside, the dawn is breaking, but inside, in the dark, I am aching to be free. Dude, I was just like, wow, that is just this great ending. And plus, the look on his face, you get that tear trickling down his face. And then when that final explosion happens, the background is, behind Piper. So you get this shadowy image, more of a shadowy image, but you get that bright red and yellow, and then in the middle there of who Piper is, and you see him, I'm like, wow, this is just a beautifully drawn panel.
Brother Eye escaped. My question is, did Piper leave with him?
No. My guess is Piper's dead.
Yeah,
I
see
of
both
Piper.
possibilities.
If they were to swerve and Piper's still alive, I would be like, oh my God, that is wonderful.
I'm not convinced he's dead.
You're not? I am.
I mean, I could see it that way.
Yeah.
Wait, let me put it to you a different way. I'm sorry. I can see both possibilities. I either see that he died here or that he left with Brother Eye when Brother Eye left.
Now,
Wouldn't Brother Eye see value in holding on to him?
oh, yeah, because he's accessed the anti-life equation. But
Right.
I think it's a matter of...
Was Brother Eye able to?
Yeah, I didn't have the opportunity, I don't think. But who knows? Maybe, actually, he may have invoked a boom tube without even realizing it and got himself out. Maybe the anti-life equation kept him alive. I'm talking...
Yeah.
I mean,
you're
Piper.
talking about how to Piper.
Maybe Piper could have without even realizing, but I don't think so. I think Piper's dead, which I think is a wonderful, glorious ending for him. Now, as the issue ends
Watching all this, though, would Darkseid let the guy holding the anti-life equation die?
Good question. Good question.
Going on the whole
and to be honest,
chessboard analogy.
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. Would Darkseid...
Would Midge, for that matter? I don't know.
I don't think Midge has the foresight to do it.
I think Darkseid does, though.
Darkseid does. Darkseid definitely does.
So I don't know. I'm just I'm totally speculating.
See right there, that could be another way that Piper lives. And if that's the case, I would have absolutely no problem. I would give him a kudos. I'd say good job. Hoorah.
He could be completely dead there too. I see that possibility.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think I'm like sitting here, well, Sean thinks he's alive. No, it's
I know.
I guess that's where I'm saying the more this is going on, the more questions I'm having. And they're good questions because I could see him being dead. I could see him being alive. My question is, what is going on and what can we trust at the moment as fact?
Yeah. Now, as Apocalypse blows up, everything is, just destroying. Now, it's funny, we got good news, bad news. Good news is Una is back. Bad news is Kyle is out cold, and they need his ring to get off the planet, basically. Plus, you have a nice little cliffhanger right at the bottom where Donna's like, saying, okay, everybody, we have company. And who does she see? I was like, nice. I'm like, it was a subtle cliffhanger. It was a little subtle okay, what's going on here? Is something other than the planet crumbling around happening that Donna sees? Or, I don't know. Backstory, Black Manta. Dude, I love this one. I know very little about the guy, so this was a great summary of it, but once again, this is some more...
Also a great summary, though. This is one that's a dual origin, really. It has a nice origin of Aquaman as well, wrapped in this whole little bow here.
And I tell you, Mike Norton art was just absolutely wonderful on this with facial expressions. There's just, you have when Aquaman is, going after Black Manta after he kills his son. You have the look on his face when he's using his healing hand to heal Black Manta. And also, something else I noticed, which is a little, I don't want to say twisted, sick-side, but it's also just wonderful attention to detail. When the baby is in the bubble of air and can't breathe, you actually see the baby like holding his neck, kind of like the I'm drowning thing. I was like, cool. I like just the expressions and the facial features that we were seeing and just their reaction. I was like, damn, this is nice. This was one I actually showed to my mom, and she was like, wow, that looks really good. She was, just in the same reaction of that facial, real expressions.
This was it was an interesting run to talk about right now, the set of issues that we had, because a lot has really happened up to this point in this particular series. We have 8 more issues. You have to complete our countdown coverage.
Yeah.
I'm glad the way we've covered this. This one it's been, I think, for both of us, a pretty heavy undertaking to cover this way and to go at it with this amount of depth. I'm glad we did this, because I think at the end it's going to be a nice bookended piece. We got a lot of comments when we finished our 52 coverage for people who were exploring 52 via trade. And I think there's going to be people with the buzz on Final Crisis who maybe didn't read Countdown that are going to go back and read Countdown in trade to get a feel for what led up to Final Crisis. So I'm glad that we covered this way, because I think there's going to be some value in people who not only listen through the first time around, but maybe some new readers to Countdown who jump on our show can go back and enjoy this the way that people have mentioned that they're enjoying 52 via trade and exploring our episodes. So that's one of the nice parts about when we have these podcasts that are, the backlog's still available. So Jim, let's wrap up real quick with our All-Star Batman and Robin audio comment.
Hawkman.
Hello, Sean and Jim. This is Dan Tobby. I am sending you, actually resending you, an audio comment that I sent in a while back. This is about All-Star Batman and Robin. I got an email from Sean this morning asking me to resend it, and I'd lost it, so I'm just redoing it because All-Star Batman and Robin number 9 was something very, very memorable. So I have no problem recording myself and just doing it all over again. One of the main reasons I sent it in the first place was when I had gotten the issue, when I read the issue, which of course I loved, I immediately thought of your show. I thought of a conversation that you guys had. I'm not sure, probably a couple months ago, when you first started talking about the series, and I can remember the question, and it was a good question, as to whether or not the series was dark for dark's sake, just to be dark, or if there was a point to it, if there was a story. And I've enjoyed the series all along. I've liked it from the beginning, and if things are executed well, I actually don't have a problem with dark for dark's sake. If it's done well, if it's done with some amount of art, which I felt like this one has from the beginning. But I felt like this issue probably was going to address or answer that question, because it does seem like with the events in this issue that there has been a point to it. That there was something that he was trying to do. One of the reasons why I've liked the series all along is I'm a big fan of 1940s film noir. Detective stories, Sam Spade, Humphrey Bogart, Maltese Falcon, that sort of thing. And right away, from the beginning, from the first issue on, I felt like that's sort of like what Frank Miller was trying to do, is he was trying to have that type of narration and that type of setting and those type of, amoral characters, but done in a very contemporary setting. For somebody like me that loves film noir and loves comics and certainly loves the character of Batman, it's just been great. I've really enjoyed it. Not only that, but Jim Lee's art. Jim Lee is probably, my favorite artist. And I also felt like the narration has always been really, really well written. Whether you like the character or not, whether you have problems with "I'm the goddamn Batman," when Frank Miller writes the character, when he writes how the character thinks, it feels original to me. It doesn't. So many people that write Batman, so often. Jeff Loeb is one in some of the stuff that he's written. I always feel like they're stealing from other movies. I can't tell you the millions of times I've noticed a Godfather quote, a direct steal. And with Frank Miller's writing, it just feels original. It feels like something that's coming from him, that he's not stealing, that he's not borrowing from somebody else, maybe influenced by, a la the film noir, but it's him. It's his writing. It's very original. So anyhow, I just felt like I would love to hear you guys talk about this issue, because I felt like everything came to a head. Certainly on a visual level, the issue was stunning. All the yellow stuff in the beginning was great. It was funny. It was a little disturbing. It was a little creepy. And what took me by surprise, and while I was reading it, I'm sure my jaw dropped, was the fact that Robin almost ended up killing Green Lantern. And this was not where I thought it was going at all. Not at all. I assumed this was going to be another situation where, the super macho Batman was going to sissify another DC icon, and the dramatic turn that things took was unexpected, and I always love that. And one of the things that impressed me, and one of the things that I really liked about the issue, is it showed a big, big, big part of Batman's character is that, he's a guy that doesn't second guess himself. He strategizes, he thinks, he plans, but when he's made up his mind, he goes out and he does something. And oftentimes, he makes a mistake. And this time he recognized that he'd made a big mistake and did everything that he could in his power very, very quickly to rectify that. He realized he messed up. He said, I think his dialogue is actually, "I blew it." And the way that Frank Miller writes it, he made such a good point of, Bruce had years and years to process the grief, whereas Robin had just had weeks, and how thoughtless and how careless that was to not realize that, to not give him the wisdom, to not give him the compassion. as well as the skills to defend himself if necessary. And then, of course, my favorite thing was just the way that the story ended and the image, the visuals, the story, the dialogue, the narration, everything by the end was just incredibly moving. So, I mean, this is why I buy comic books, for an issue like this. I thought it was fantastic. So I would love to hear you guys talk about it in the show. Hope my comment wasn't too long. Feel free to edit it, as I'm sure you would. So keep up the good job. I'm enjoying your show as always. Thanks.
I want to thank Dan for that audio comment. No, I don't think I've ever edited somebody's audio comment for any reason other than maybe occasionally when I'm editing our own show, I'll take out somebody's ums or something like that if I have a chance. But I can't remember ever doing that.
Yeah, and that was a good comment. That wasn't too long or anything like that. Huh.
Wait, we do how often?
Dude, come on.
Yeah, whatever you guys.
That's a nice length.
And honestly, I would prefer people to kind of do something in their own voice. So I'm not worried about. I liked how Dan did that. It was very much his own voice, his own commentary on a particular issue. That's what I'm looking for in audio comments. Brent's done those with his. Eli did it with his. We've had Darth Dad do his. We've had like a history of audio comments that I think have been very personal. So please don't feel like you're ever restricted by audio comments. Send me an email at ragingbullets@gmail.com if you ever need any help doing them. Dan had to re-record his because there was a little problem with Audacity, so I had to explain with him how to get Audacity to output a file that I can use, which was fairly simple. It was just he sent me a portion of the file, which I didn't have any audio to be able to work with. So it's really easy to output a WAV file with Audacity. And that's one thing with Audacity. You want to export it when you save the file. You want to export it as a WAV file and send it to me that way. If you're like totally think I'm talking Greek right now and you want some help with how to do that, shoot me an email. I'd love to talk anyone who wants to send us an audio comment through how to do that. It's very easy, and it's an easy process. He talks about All-Star Batman and Robin. Our comment on as far as was it being controversial for the sake of being controversial was what we were going through there, versus there being a reason for the controversy. And actually, I totally agree with him. I think this was the issue that it clicked to me what they're trying to do here. Batman's over-the-top behavior influenced Robin to the point where Robin was ready to kill Green Lantern, which means it wasn't on the level that Bruce was. He didn't have those limits that Bruce has. And it's a wake-up call for Bruce that he needs to rethink how he's training this kid, because otherwise he could be creating a monster on a level that he never intended. I liked that. That was what I was hoping was coming from this. Way back when we were talking in the early issues, as I started to have a bad taste about the creepy uncle-ish Batman in this, and I still don't like his inner dialogue, but that's a personal preference. It's not so much me saying that the dialogue itself is badly written or poorly written. It's just not my cup of tea for Batman. This is not how I view Batman. So I think it's just a matter of personal preference. His dialogue will probably never be my cup of tea in how they're doing this. That being said, I've continued to pick up the monthly issues of this, and there's a reason for it. There are things that I'm drawn to in the story. I am enjoying it. I'm not afraid to say, you know what, I'll send in audio comments and All-Star Batman and Robin. I'm not picking it up. You were not yourself picking it up. You bought the hardcover for the art, right?
I tell you, it's fun. I picked up the hardcover solely for the Jim Lee art. That was the sole reason I picked it up. I didn't like the story. I honestly thought they were being controversial just to be controversial. I didn't see it as a story element until this issue. I borrowed Sean's and I read it and I was like, oh man, okay, yeah, it makes sense what they did. It makes sense the over the top. It showed this kind of like how it manipulated Robin and just made Robin who he is. And I tell you, I liked that ending, how he talked about just that moment at the graveside. I was like, oh my God, this, and I'm like, I want to read issue 12 now. It made me want to get that issue just to see where it further evolved.
It's interesting now. Well, do you mean issue 10?
What did I say?
This is issue 9 right now.
Sorry.
You said issue 12.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things about this is, even though I haven't liked Bruce as a character and his inner dialogue, I always liked Dick Grayson, and I always liked Batgirl, and I always liked Alfred. I thought they were brilliant characters, so they kept me coming back.
Yeah.
It was the Robin part of the All-Star Batman and Robin that brought me back. So I wasn't just being a drone and picking up this series. There was something every issue that made me want to pick up the next one. I don't know that we're supposed to like Bruce in this. I don't know that was what Frank Miller's going for. So I don't think he would really care about the fact that I don't really like Batman in this. I think he would want there to be reasons that you would keep enjoying the story, keep returning to it. You made a lot of really good comments on what you think he's trying to do here. I do like the film noir comparisons, and that I think is one of the reasons why I'm coming back. I like film noir. I've mentioned it on the show multiple times, a great deal. So there are elements of that, and I can totally see where you're getting that vibe from this series. It's interesting, though. This is the first story, and I think it's why I've had such trouble with it emotionally. It's the first Batman story I've read where I don't like Batman at all. On any level. I don't like Bruce. I really don't like the character. His inner dialogue creeps me out. Like he said, disturbing. He mentioned disturbing multiple times. Some of the stuff they did with Hal Jordan was very disturbing. But it fits consistently with the character that they're portraying in this storyline. And I was glad to see the point of this one, though, where he had to go, oh my God, look what the kid almost did. What I'm curious of at this point, now that that reveal's happened, where Bruce has gotten to see Dick almost kill Hal Jordan, where do we go from here? And what is going to... That's going to be the point of the story for me. I was glad to see it, though, because it really made me go, okay, this is what I was hoping. This is the point of this whole thing. It's nice to see that that is the point of this whole thing. So I'm curious to see what the fallout is from all this and where it's going to go with them as characters. I've enjoyed the journey. But for a reason I didn't expect with a Batman story. Usually Batman is, I want to be Batman. And, my entry level into Batman was the 60s Batman series. So I started off as a child loving and wanting to be Batman. I, jumped on from that to the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams stuff. Again, this is very much the Grant Morrison Batman that we're reading today. Much more accessible, different type of character and all that. That was my comic book Batman that I read. Not campy like the 60s show, but more of a Batman was a hero, Batman was a character you rally behind and you follow. So this storyline for me is not, I don't like the Batman where I don't like Batman. I've loved Batman all these years straight on through, even when he was that dark, brooding one in Bruce Wayne Murderer and Fugitive. I really enjoyed those storylines as well, where he was, that kind of distancing himself from the Bat family. It's interesting as a journey for me to not like him, though. And that's been the consistent thing throughout this book. Even in this issue, I still don't like him, but I like the story. And that's the huge difference. I think it's why the journey's been very difficult for me. My reasoning for enjoying and following this book has been something that has been hard to put my handle on. The artwork has been tremendous all the way through. It's funny, the inner dialogue of Batman, though, I agree with him, it's completely original. But I don't feel the Batman that I know there.
Yeah,
and that's not a knock on it necessarily as much as that's what I don't like about him. It just doesn't feel like... He's very much at like the dinner table, the guy, the creepy uncle that you want to scoot a couple chairs over with because he gets a little too close to you or, says a little something that like, you're just kind of like, he's deviant. He's very deviant. And I get that that's what he's going for, too. I'm sure Miller thinks that, with the guy who dresses up in a mask and a costume and goes out and does the things that he does is deviant to a certain extent, and that's what we're going for. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, I don't like this Batman. I will keep following this, though, because I'm enjoying the story. And it sounds like a weird contradiction, but it's really not. There are enough characters in this that are... I need an emotional attachment, a hero to rally behind. That's Dick Grayson for me. That's Alfred for me. When Alfred talks about this guy, Alfred views him the way I do. So I like that. Dick Grayson views him a little creepy like I do. I like that Dick Grayson's been influenced by it, though, and he's going over the edge because of it, and that Bruce is now going to have to deal with the consequences of that. I liked when he took him to the gravesite in that issue.
Yeah, that was a
and
great...
hugged him and held him together. I liked those moments. That was the first time, I will say, it was the first time I liked him. I liked Bruce at that moment, being there for him and bonding with him. I'm curious to see where it goes from this. So I've enjoyed the journey. I've never regretted buying an issue of this. I've been creeped out many times in a weird way. It's been a very strange journey for me. I've never had a journey like this with a Batman book. So I think that's, if you got animosity at any point in time, it's animosity towards the fact that I don't like Batman.
Yeah, and it's funny, I'm at the weird stage now, because I was just planning on just keep getting the hardbound covers and not get the monthly floppies, and now I'm like, I really want to pick up the floppies, but I'm like, I don't want to mix and match, because you know me, I don't like to mix and match. So I'm like, I'm now in the crossroads where I don't know what I'm going to do here. Part of me really, really wants to read and see what's happened next issue because of that final scene with him in the grave and them hugging. Just like, are we going to see a kinder, gentler goddamn Batman? Or are we going to see, him retraining Robin saying, no, you can't kill. We can't cross that line. That's the line we can't cross because we become like them. We're hard, we're rough, we're nasty, we're mean, but we aren't killers. Are we going to see that type of stuff? And I'm dying to know that. And this is the first time I've ever been involved with this All-Star Batman that I'm like, man, what happens next? I want to know. And that, to me, makes a good story that I want to pick up. So, kudos. This was a good read.
Thank you for that audio comment. They're really, really great audio comments. We've had a lot of audio submissions relating to All-Star Batman and Robin. I think it's been another controversial series that I'm glad I finished it. There was a point in time where I actually was questioning why was I still reading it. There was something that kept drawing me back, but now I'm really at a comfortable point where I know why I'm still reading this series. But there was a point in the middle where I'm like, why am I picking up this again?
Yeah.
But then the new issue would come out and there would be something that would draw me to pick it up again. Like, I thought the Batgirl issue was completely brilliant. I really, really enjoyed that issue. So when you get issues like that and there's characters that are endearing enough and making you want to keep reading it, that's why you pick it up, and I'm glad that I stuck with this. The artwork has been brilliant, and I've really enjoyed the storytelling. It's very hard when you're a Batman fan and he's really your linchpin character to sit there and go, oh, I don't like him at all. That's been the disturbing part for me. I've never had animosity towards Batman. This book made me hate Batman in this particular storyline, which was a very strange place to be in. But I'm glad I read it. So thanks again, Dan, for that audio comment. And an open shout-out. Anybody's welcome to have those audio comments. Send them in to us. If you need help with them, just contact me. We love having you part of the show so we can do stuff like this. So it was really great. Another good audio comment.
Holy caffeine!
Okay, our next episode is going to be our beginning of our 2-year anniversary show. Jim and I are going to record it this week at some point. I'm going to try to edit it together either before New York or while we're at New York. I'll be editing it at the table, so you might see me there with my headphones on and a laptop in front of me. I'm more than likely working on the show at that point to get it out on Saturday night, Sunday morning. I'm going to make one little disclaimer. My plan right now is to release it from the New York Comic-Con on Saturday night, because I want Saturday night, Sunday morning to be our release window now. So I can always do it Sunday morning before we head over to the con again if I need to as well. The only problem with that will be if for some reason I am not able to upload it from the con, be released Sunday night when I return home. So I'll have it all edited together. So in the event you don't see it Sunday morning, which is going to be our new release window, Saturday night, Sunday morning, just this week, because of the fact that we will be in New York, if I have any problems, I will release it Sunday night. So if you don't see it and you don't see the forum post for it and everything, don't panic. It will be there for the Monday morning drive. It just might mean that I have to get that all together while in New York. We are going back weekly. My goal is to have an episode up every weekend now. So we're going back to that, and good stuff. This one was a whopper.
Yes.
And I knew we had a lot to get to on this one. Thanks for putting up with our transition show on this one. Want to remind everyone to check out the Comic Tube podcast. That's comictubepodcast.blogspot.com. Also, Gotham Knights podcast, which is at freewebs.com. Gotham Knights, /Gotham Knights, I should say. And I'll have both of those linked up on the website. Want to remind everyone, of course, about the New York Comic-Con. Jim and I are going to be there. It's the 18th through the 20th. nycomiccon.com. Check that out with the amazing DC Grant Morrison, Gail Simone, Jamal Igle, Jeff Johns, Dan DiDio is going to be there, the whole crew. Denny O'Neil, classic creator from there, is going to be there. I know I'm going through classic creators, Joe Simon, Stan Lee. There's just an amazing list that goes on and on. Carmine Infantino is going to be there again. Martin Franco from Tiny Titans are going to be there, who were on our show and we had a great time with. We're going to be over in Podcast Arena all weekend. Please stop over and see us. There's going to be very few exceptions to why one of us at least, wouldn't be at the table. And if we will, we'll make sure there will be other podcasters there that will know exactly where we are and when we're going to be back. Because there's going to be some big DC panels and things, and we want to make sure to get news and get them recorded. If you want to bring a Speeding Bullets with you, to the con, please feel free to do that. We'd love to get you on the show and chatting about comics in general, anything you want to chat about from DC or news at the convention. If you go to a panel and you want to chat about some of the news with us, come on back over and join us for that. I'm really excited. Jay Torres is going to be there, writer of Wonder Girl, the writer of the current Legion of Superheroes comic, Teen Titans Go.
Yep.
Is going to be there. He's got a new book that he's going to be talking about there as well that's going to be coming out, a new miniseries. We're going to be talking about that on the show quite soon, so that's going to be great. I want to remind everyone, of course, about DCB Service. DCBS is dcbservice.com. They are an incredible discount comic book subscription source. This is a great chance for you to pre-order your comics and get insane savings, anywhere from 25 to 75%, with most of the discounts in the 40 to 50%, Jim, which is, I mean, anything mainstream DC is always going at the 40% at least. So, you know, any of you DC fans out there, whether it's Vertigo, Wildstorm, the regular DC Universe, Minx, any of those things, CMX manga, I'm getting all that stuff at 40 to 50% off from them, with special deals 75% off. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. I went from a $250 a month comic book budget down to $150, and I've added more titles. I am now getting a lot more independent stuff, a lot of stuff outside of the DC, just because I'm like, I can't pass this up. I'm like, the concept sounds kind of neat. It's a good price. I got to go for it. And I'm picking up these independents going, wow, this is a neat thing. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, I'm going to keep following this one. No, I'm not going to follow this one. Oh, yeah, I'm on this one. And it's a really neat service. I wish I had started it sooner than I had, but I'm glad I'm on there now. And
you know, Los Angeles is Manhunter's town, for example, so Kate Spencer learns of the disappearance of hundreds of women along the Mexican border. She's on the case, both as a law-breaking DA and costume vigilante. Meanwhile, Kate's bloodline tied to the JSA returns to haunt her, as it looks like her sidekick's most notorious supervillain ex-boss is doing the same to him. This is really interesting because Mark Andreyko is writing a wonderful series here. We did a Manhunter Challenge a while back because we love this series so much. Issue 31 is 74 cents. How can you not try this book? Buy one for a friend. You know, 2 books, 74 cents a piece. You can get up to 2 at that price. Then, even so, they've got their regular discount. But it's $2.99 regularly, 74 cents.
Dude, this is a no-brainer. This is a great thing to pick up. We raved about the Manhunter Challenge, and we weren't just the only one. There was a lot of people who flooded DC saying, hey, you got to keep this series. This is a great series. And they listened. They listened to the readers, and the series was saved. So this is a great jumping on point for you to see why all of us are absolutely in love with this title, and why you can't beat the price, dudes. Try it out. See what you like.
And they're supporting us, so please support them. Check out their site. I mean, even if you find that's not for you, visit their site and give it a shot. You know, at least look around. Take a look at the savings you would get if you started buying some of your books from there. For example, Batman number 678 by Grant Morrison. This is part 3 of Batman Rip, which is just a huge series here. $2.99, only $1.79 at DCBS with that. Like I said, 40% is the bottom line discount on mainstream DC books. It's getting at least 40% off. Grant Morrison's JLA run is being collected in a hardcover. Issues 1 through 9 and the Secret Files and Origins issue, which was double-sized anyway, regularly $29.99, only $14.99 with that 50% discount on that hardcover. So if you were interested at all in picking those up and you're like, oh, that hardcover, you are getting a hardcover at less than a trade price.
Yeah.
How can you argue with that? And so that's DCBS is your destination for your pre-order needs. Each month there is an amazing selection of incredible discounts. And check that out at dcbservice.com. Also want to shout out Instocktrades.com, which is your trade source. As we mentioned, we are going to be announcing next episode something special that's going to be upcoming with listener Darth Kramer, involving, he is one of our grand prize winners from our contest way back. We have been waiting to put something together because the story that we're going to be doing with him is going to tie in events that are coming up this summer. The trade that we're going to be doing with him, we're going to be doing something with DCBS for, so we're going to be shouting that out next episode. But, I mean, just welcome to Tranquility Volume 1. Jim and I rant and rave about Gail Simone, the first 6 issues of this series. Regularly $19.99, only $12.99. Huge savings there. Batman the Killing Joke. I love this hardcover. I'm so glad I got it because it's oversized. I'm a big fan of a little bit larger format for the artwork and all that to see it a little bigger. But not only are you getting that original story, you are getting a completely recolored version of the story done by Brian Boland. So it's a different aesthetic. Really cool to take your original issue, hold it up next to it, and take a look and compare panel to panel what Brian Boland did in the original. I found that there's some of the artwork that Brian Boland recolored I prefer. I found that some of the original I prefer. I like that kind of thing, though, because there's a reason to repurchase because you're getting something new for that money. He also put a black and white story that he did in there, a Batman black and white story that has now been colored for this particular series, which is great. Captain Carrot and the final arc. Bill Morrison, Roy Thomas, E. Nelson Bridwell. The artist list is incredible. Scott Shaw, Ross Andrew, Rick Hoberg, Al Gordon, and others. Regularly $19.99, only $12.59. This is the 3-issue miniseries, and basically it's called the final arc because it ties into Countdown, kind of like the last, supposedly quote-unquote, last Captain Carrot story. This was really a fun story. If you've been interested in Captain Carrot at all, I mean, how can you argue with that for $12.59? Did you read that?
No, I didn't.
It was a fun story. So I definitely let you borrow some of the issues to see if you want to pick up that trade because you can't argue with that price. But definitely, if you're looking for any trades at all, check out Instocktrades.com just to browse around and look at the selection at Instocktrades.com. They seem to have everything. So, and their list is growing every single week because when the new weekly releases come out, Instocktrades has them up there. Killing Joke just came out. So, I mean, they've got that already up there at a discount. And like I said, we will be back in a week with our 2-year anniversary kickoff show. We are going to be changing our numbering system a little bit just to celebrate kind of Raging Bullets 2.0. With that new episode, we are going to be taking a look at New Frontier, both the DVD release, comic book issues in, I'm going to look at the Absolute, and you've got the trades of that one that you read. And I also, did you get the single issue, the one afterwards, the follow-up?
Yes, I did.
Did you read it?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about that, too.
Okay, cool.
And we're just making a whole thing. It's all New Frontier. So I don't know if we're going to get that in one show, if we're going to have to do that in the second part. We may be finishing that in New York, but we'll see how the conversation goes. But
we won't get it. Come on, dude. With the content and everything that's
and the
going
amount
on
we've
with
got
that.
to scramble this week. So we may be finishing a lot of that up in New York. But anyway, we will see you in a week.
Bye. You know,
A great kid like you deserves an amazing birthday.
An enormous show floor plays post.
yeah.
Dee-da-da-da. We want to thank the New York Comic Con for its sponsor. New York concert. I am so tongue-tied.
I'm just, you know.
And she's on the case, both as a lawbreak. She's on the case, I'm all tongue-tied. She's on the case. Both
is the word.
Okay,
the word is both.
Can you spell that for me?
B-O-T-H.
Okay, both. Okay,
Yes.
right. Okay, I've got that. I can say it. I just can't say it in a sentence. Okay.